Hello to anyone who is watching this, either on YouTube or even listening to it on the Gauntlets podcast channel, because most of the stuff recorded for the Gauntlet ends up there. Well, I've said the word Gauntlet 2 times now, so I might as well tell you, listener slash viewer, that you're watching slash listening to a game that was arranged through the Gauntlet, which is a community on the internet that gets together and plays tabletop role-playing games online of the indie persuasion. Finds all the stuff that the Gauntlet does at gauntlet-rpg.com, where you'll find, all cool things relating to indie tabletop role-playing games. Stuff like, Powered by the Apocalypse games, OSR games, Fortune in the Dark, story games, GMS games, all sorts. That deserve just a bit more love and a bit more attention in the wider role-playing sphere. There's cool stuff there on the website, like blogs, forums. There's the zine that the Gauntlet puts out named Codex, which usually contains supplements to existing games and original games in itself. The newest one, Codex Home, just came out this week. You can look at that, and all back and you can look at that by signing up for the Gauntlet's Patreon, but you can look up all the back issues of Codex on Drive2RPG. There's also the podcasting network that the Gauntlet puts out, and there's the Hangouts calendar to which many games are arranged. This one, though, was arranged during Gauntlet Community Open Gaming, which is like basically a virtual mini-con weekend. Lots of cool games. Basically, it's an invitation for folks who normally don't play with Gauntlet to come over here, play with these folks, us folks. Why do I say these as if I'm not part of them? I'm running a game for them. I am them. Well, not all of them. Can you tell I just drank some coffee? Anyway, this game that we are playing is Good Society, which is a game by Story Brewers Role Playing that aims to emulate the stories of Jane Austen, who you might remember from such works as Pride and Prejudice and Sense and Sensibility and all that. But we are playing one of the expansions for the game, which is called Lady Susan PI, which reframes the game as a murder drama about a insidious event that's happened in a household and the characters connected to that event who now have to grapple with what the hell to do as this murder has occurred. Let's kind of introduce each other, like the table to each other. It's like I've played with some of y'all, but I've not played with some of y'all. So I can't assume that everyone's played with everyone. So let's do a round of introductions. I'm just gonna go clockwise on my view of Zoom. So I guess I should start. My name is Leandro. Use he, him pronouns, and I'm excited for this game. Kind of terrified because I've not run this version of Good Society before, but it'll be fine. This version of Good Society, I've played Good Society too many times, far too many times. The one person who's played Good Society with me is nodding vigorously. So Maria, why don't you introduce yourself next?
I was tempted to pull up like a pie chart with how many times Leandro's played this game. Yes, I'm Maria. I use she, her pronouns. I've played Good Society a bunch, and I have not played Lady Susan yet, but I'm excited to see what these murderous shenanigans are about. Yes.
Cool. Up next on my screen, Bethany, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Bethany. I use they, them pronouns. I have never played this game. I thought this particular expansion looked like an interesting entry to it, since I'm not super familiar with Jane Austen. I've read Pride and Prejudice, that's it. But I used to, when I was a kid, read a lot of Agatha Christie, so I figured this seemed like a good entry point for it.
Congratulations, Bethany. You've read more of Jane Austen than I have. I've read one chapter.
Okay.
So we're all kind of like on an even playing field. Up next, can I ask actually, how do you pronounce the name? Marley, or is it Marley? Apologies. Marley, cool. Would you kind of
Marley,
introduce yourself?
like Bob Marley. Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
Or like the dog, if that is more of your reference. Hi, I'm Marley. She, her. I actually have read Jane Austen. And I am now a veteran of the Good Society role-playing system, having played Maria's game this morning, so I sort of know what I'm doing. Maybe, I guess, I don't know. I'm looking forward to it.
Hell yeah. Can't believe like I'm claiming to have run this game multiple times. I still have not read Jane Austen that much. Last but not the least, David, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm David, he, him pronouns. I have not played this game before. I have not read Jane Austen, but I do enjoy melodramatic gothic novels from about that time in history. So when I saw the ad for this game, I thought, oh, well, now this might be something I'm interested in. So here I am.
Hell yeah. Cool. So now that we all know, I think I say right now, like you don't as I've said, I played a lot of Good Society. There's like no need to know the source material. I think the game stands on its own. You just need to know like, you know, several trappings of it. But this one, Lady Susan definitely is like its own contained experience. So let's just run through it. So there is a start there. As always with Good Society games, we start with collaboration. But before I do that, I do want to run through like the content, aim, tone, and kind of like subject matter of this game. So content, as mentioned, as I said, Good Society is mostly about Jane Austen, but it's quite different for Lady Susan. I will just read the blurb in the collaboration tab of the sheet. Lord Ernest Walnut has been murdered in his own manner. Oh no. Oh, that's tragic. In Lady Susan PI, each player will be playing a murder suspect, a major character staying at Lord Walnut's manor house at the time of his murder. In this game, we'll follow the drama and accusations in the wake of Walnut's death. At the end, we will decide together what happens. Now, here's the most important distinction. This is a murder drama. This is not a murder mystery. In a murder mystery, we'd be like, you know, trying to figure out who the murderer is. But this is a murder drama in that, you know, while this game revolves around a mysterious death, it is not about the deduction or mystery itself. It's about the drama that the murder leads to, the relationships between the characters. You'll see when we turn to the character sheet, there are like specific roles you have in a murder mystery, including the murderer. And that's known to everyone. So this is not going to be about, all right, this makes sense. This is more about who feels the most, who feels for what. I can't believe you're the murderer. I trusted you, that sort of thing. The melodrama, basically. So that's the aim of the game, is to tell like a satisfying story about the drama generated from a sudden and mysterious passing from these types of stories. So that's kind of the aim of what we have. Tone is actually something we will decide as part of collaboration. Good Society always starts off with collaboration, where we kind of like decide we're all on the same page of what kind of story we want to tell. There's some questions we're all going to answer together. And the subject matter, as mentioned, you know, there's a murder, but we will make space for like there's stuff for like lines and veils down at the end of collaboration, where we can say what do we not want to see, you know, what do we want to concern ourselves. So we'll get to that when we get to collaboration. So part of Good Society, I will say right now, like Good Society is, you know, there's no dice involved. It's very collaborative. So basically, nothing happens in the story that won't have the consent of everyone, you know, as in like we'll all talk about what we're adding into the game, but there's a space at the bottom when we get to the end of collaboration to specifically mark out what we don't want to see. So yeah, let's go to collaboration, the collaboration tab. So the tone of the story, there are three choices. It goes from silly to serious, basically. So there's farce, which actions have few consequences outside the current scene. Improbable coincidences and circumstances are manifold. Society is prone to excessive silliness. This is like Clue, basically. You know, that's what it is. The median between farce and drama is black comedy. Actions have consequences, but these might not always be what we expect. Unfortunate and humorous coincidences can occur, but serious emotional moments are still possible. This is kind of like the Coen brothers, basically. It's kind of like absurdist, kind of like, what the fuck? Why is it? Okay, all right. Okay, what is, okay, all right. Okay, cool. And after that, there is drama, which is things are difficult and actions have serious consequences. Tensions are quick to inflame. connections, fishy pursuit of ends. Society is harsh and judgmental. So it is what right there on the tin. It is like this is a serious matter. A man died. He may not be the greatest of men. We'll define him when we get to it. But take it as seriously as drama demands it. The thing with tone is like it's kind of like a starting point. We'll usually like wander off to figure out what tone is appropriate for a story. But given this is a one shot, this is this sets the tone. The tone. There we go. This sets it for us. So yeah, I'll put it out the table. What tone kind of like interests folks? The tone of the story that we're gonna pursue.
I'm not feeling the super harsh and judgmental, but I would be fine with either of the other two.
Yeah, go ahead, Bethany.
I think what the in between would be best. I just played in a game that turned out to be extremely farcical, so I'm kind of like, something a little less ridiculous would be good. But yeah, I don't really want to be super serious.
I'm thinking serious, but like melodramatically over the top serious. So it's not like grim necessarily. It's just kind of like almost funny in a way, but it's still serious funny, if that makes sense.
Yep. Sense. Maria, you okay? I think we're all kind of like reaching consensus here, but
Yeah.
you're good with black comedy.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Next question is, how important is historical accuracy? And again, there's a scale. It goes from a little important, which is we'll do the best job we can, but the story is much more important. Who cares who the prime minister is? It doesn't matter. He's not peerage. Doesn't matter to us. And it goes from that to somewhat important, which try to get right where it counts, but we'll never stop the game to find out historical fact. We might call on other players for more knowledge when something seems important. We can guess. And then there's very important, which is like, yeah, we should know who the prime minister is. This is ridiculous. I'll say right now, it doesn't sound like any one of us is from the UK, or am I making a judgment? No? Okay, cool. So my recommendation is just to make it a little important and in that not very, if that's okay with folks. Okay, cool. So yeah, don't worry. No one needs to put on an accent or have to know who the Earl of Worcestershire is. I don't even know if they have earls there. They might or might not. Okay, so how will we treat the gender power balance? So there's like three choices. There's historical, which is the standard, Regency patriarchy. That's kind of, that's what we lived through in history. So that's what it is. There is off, where it's normal and acceptable for people of all genders to have, significant respectable careers, make the first move, inherit estates, and marry any other genders. And the other option is reverse, in which case it is normal and acceptable that only women may have significant and respectable careers, make the first move, inherit estates, etc. Again, this is kind of like bigger in the base good society sense. A lot of it is about marrying well, inheriting well, trying to get through yearning. It's not as important here because this is all going to be set in like one or 2 days, dealing with a murder. But it's still interesting coloring. So what would folks prefer?
I am personally open to whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm also open to whatever.
Yeah. I'll say then let's just keep it standard, just because if we go off, we won't have the space to like play into that space. Unless people want to play it off. I'm actually open to whatever. I'm just making a choice. If not, then we'll keep it to standard then. That's okay with Bethany and Maria?
Yeah, that's fine.
Cool. All right. So, nope, off. Next question is, how much hidden information will be used in the game? I'll say right now, some only works offline, because when you give out relationships, you actually give them in cards. you can't do it online when the information is out there in the open. And I already said information is going to be out there in the open. So, because the way this works is like this works normally, especially offline. It's like when you're building out the backstory, you give out you have relationship cards, and you give them to people. And sometimes you want to keep the relationships hidden. Are we acquaintances? Oh, there we go. Because one of them could be like the public side is acquaintances, but in reverse, oh, you're actually the illegitimate child of this person. So that works well on offline, but online, especially when I already said information is going to be out there, I would say we probably would keep this off, if that's okay with folks. Okay, cool. So, is there anything our game should avoid? This is kind of like where folks would have time to add what do they want to avoid? Like, what's any lines or any things they want to veil? For those who don't know, lines are things that won't be crossed, just won't show up in a fiction. Veils are things that can happen in fiction, but we're not gonna concentrate on it. Like maybe it happens off screen, or it gets a sentence or two, or we just move away from it, or it just happens. So I think I would just I'm just gonna go around and ask folks if there's anything you want to avoid. And this is a living document. You can add to it later if nothing comes up right now. I'll go counterclockwise this time, if that's okay. David, is there anything you want to add there that you want to avoid?
Not particularly, no. I'll let you know if anything comes up that I think of, but nothing on the front end here.
I'm going to add mine before. I should have added mine before we started. That's not how you spell that word. Marley, is there anything you want to avoid in this game in particular?
Yes, could I get lines on incest and cruelty to domestic animals?
Bethany?
Nah.
Okay. Don't worry if you can't think of anything right now. Again, we can come back to this at any point during the game. Okay, is there anything else you want to add?
Let's add lines to suicide and veil on consensual sex.
Okay, so after that, is there anything we'd love to see in our game? What do we want to see today? So we can flag that. They'll probably show up. Let's go right back around to David. Is there anything you want to see today?
I wish I was providing a little bit more input than this, but no, I mean, I'm so new to this, I can't even imagine what we would go with. So I'll follow your guys' lead on this kind of stuff.
Okay, no worries. We'll have you along for the ride, and it's going to be a great ride. Cool. Marley, is there anything you want to flag as something you'd love to see?
Yeah, I'm kind of with David, which is I'm not familiar with this expansion. I assume as long as there is lots of interpersonal murkiness, that is mostly what I'm playing this for.
Yeah, some examples that I remember when I play tested this expansion is hidden passages, that sort of thing. Secret clandestine meetings between walls. Yeah.
Oh yeah, if you could do secret passages and encoded messages, that would be fun.
I'll add that there. Cool. Bethany, is there all right, I'm gonna add a suggestion you have in the chat there, David. Bethany, what about yourself?
Nah, I'm sorry, my brain has shut off. I just drank a cup of coffee, so hopefully it'll kick back in.
No worries, no worries. Cool. Maria.
I want the paintings with the eyes cut out, so this is like very specific and we don't have to actually do it, but like just in case someone feels inspired at some point, maybe like paintings with like the eyes cut out so someone's like staring into a room or something of that general nature.
God,
Like you take the
creepy.
painting off the wall and there's a little peephole, and then you put the painting back on the wall.
Exactly.
Cool. And two more things we need to decide in collaboration. So, Lord Ernest Walnut was found dead early this morning by his valet. The evening prior, Lord Walnut had invited those closest to him to, we can either celebrate his birthday, attend a family portrait painting, or he invited you to unveil his extensive manor renovations. Basically, it'll set the tone for why y'all are here. Part of the things we're going to figure out as well when we're doing backstory, which is after collaboration, is, how are you all related to Lord Walnut? You don't have to be familiarly related. There's like suggestions for, your business partners, or, you are fellow peers, or you're romantic with him. So we've not even decided if he's old or young. That's as well. But this is part of that. So they're all very good, but we need to pick one. What's speaking out to folks? I'll kind of defer to those who haven't played Good Society yet. No choice is a bad choice. It sounds like everyone will be down to go with whatever. I mean, I'm not going to choose. I'm the facilitator. I'm just here to facilitate what you want to do.
Since someone has to say something, how about the family portraiture? Because then there can be like weird hidden messages in the painting. There's like weird symbolism. We can like know this throughout the run.
Yeah, I wasn't super into that idea until you said that, and now I'm like, yeah, that's clearly the best idea.
That works for me.
Okay, but however, the celebrations met an unfortunate end, and he was found either slumped over on his desk, in a pool of blood, or under the second-story window. Yeah, we're not going to determine here how he died. That's the murderer who gets to decide that, which will be one of you, unless none of you pick the murderer, in which case, this is going to be very confusing. Because there is a spare character role there. It will be funny, but I see a suggestion in the chat. Is it blood or is it red paint? Maybe Lord Walnut was fond of his like experimental art projects, and people thought, he's just sleeping there. It's just red paint, and left him there for an hour. No, that might be a bit much. What are folks feeling?
Yeah. He was eating some particularly messy barbecue, and
I do kind of like the blood part, because then like probably not the pool of blood around him, but other like there could be other mix-ups between blood and red paint.
Oh man, it's like a different mixtures of paint and blood as well.
Like
so it's
fingerprints
not just...
or something somewhere,
Yeah.
I was wondering if we should do the slumped one, if Bethany doesn't care for the blood. And also I remember Maria I think we have a line on suicidal ideation and suicide, which being found underneath a second-story window kind of is an obvious topic for that to come up.
Yeah.
That's a good point, although this is like explicitly murder, but still.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, I mean,
I'd be okay with like,
okay.
I just don't want to see like a character actually.
All right.
Or yeah, like
just trying to respect your lines.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. It sounds like we have advocates for all three, honestly. Let's
Oh, I wasn't saying no to the pool of blood. I was saying no, we probably don't mistake it for red paint, because that's one of the other tone categories. That's the first, probably.
Yeah. Okay. Because I do like the paint motif, since we're doing portraiture. Maybe pool of blood? Unless someone doesn't want to go with, yeah, it sounds like everyone wants to. Cool. So he was found in a pool of blood, but whose blood? That's probably his, honestly. It's probably his. Okay, so we've done collaboration. Now we move on to backstory, which is that's basically the character creation bit of this. So if you go to the characters tab, you'll see that like there's many rows, but they all come with four things. There's the desire, which is what the character wants. And these are all determined by a play set, which is basically a collection of all these. So there's a desire, which is what they want. If you mouse over desire, there's like a longer write-up on what each of those mean. There's the relationship, which is how you know another character in your batch of major characters. There is the character role, which is the left box there. I mean, it says socialite and whatnot. They're the equivalent of Good Society. They're in Good Society, they're the equivalent of playbooks or character classes. They're kind of like, your role in society. So there's the that's not what I wanted. Just realized I've accidentally made a Word doc of the character roles PDF. That should be there in the folder. So they're kind of like, they're what their social and whatnot. I would say, unlike in general Good Society, in this one, there's no like we're not really bringing in the mechanical bits of character roles. They're just here to help the flavor, so they can be changed. I'll explain what each of them mean. But the box next to them, they're tied to the design relationships. They're your suspect roles. They're your part in the story. So of course, there's the murderer. There is the accomplice who has helped the murderer. There is the prime suspect, who is the most suspicious of y'all. There is the witness who saw something of the murder. And there's the opportunist, who is just here to take advantage. to take advantage of it. I myself won't be playing a character. Sometimes facilitators can play major characters as well, but no, I'll be playing the dame herself, Lady Susan P.I., who will show up at some point in this story. But have a look through those. I'll briefly explain what the character roles that are picked in this playset mean. So there's the socialite, who is kind of like, they're the ones who's moving through society. They're here to make a good marriage or just live their lives well. They're usually unburdened by many things in life. For those of your particular skill set, lengthy looks and half smiles are all that's needed to turn a room full of cold observers into desperate admirers. So they're a charmer. They're a snake, as some people here in Ireland would say. There's up next to that is the dependent. Basically, there's someone of like not lower class, but like someone who is like dependent on another person. So like they probably have to are living on another person's house, or dependent on their patronage. Ill fortune has struck you, whether it's because your parents or your spouse, or the consequence that you don't live in the same household that you own. You're dependent on someone else. After that is the meddler. They're the conniver. They're kind of like, yeah, I kind of know how society works. You don't. I'm just gonna help you out. They're there to get involved. They're to gossip. They're there to get involved in other people's business because they know better. They're the meddler, of course. They're smart. They're quite conniving. There's the new arrival, who is person who's new in town. Who's that? Stranger, that mysterious person who's just blown into town. What's their story? What's their baggage? So they're kind of like the one least known to people. Also, as a note, the desire that comes with this character role does the relationship that they come with does mean that they are the child of one of the other PCs. So keep that in mind, because that'll mean like one of us will have to be like of one of you, because I don't have to play a main character. One of you will have to be like of a parental age. Which if that character doesn't get picked, that's perfectly fine, and we don't have to bother with that because there's at least one spare since there's 4 players. And the last one is the careerist, as in they actually work for a living. fancy that. And they're devoted to their work. They're workaholic, so to speak. They know, like, they made their merit by doing things. You cannot help but feel sorry for those that consider themselves to hold the privilege of leisure, as in your view, it cannot be anything but a curse. So that's kind of like the long and short of it of character roles. So yeah, have a look through those and see, like, yeah, which ones kind of like speak out to you in terms of like desires and relationships as well. Like, yeah, what desire do you want to like pursue?
I'm kind of liking the dependent. I'm bringing people to run.
Also, take note of the suspect role as well, because because you might. I don't want it to be a case of, oh, I want to be the social. I want to come to substantial wealth. Oh wait, shit, I'm the murderer. Because you'll also answer like questions specific to your role, into your suspect role, which we'll get to once you like pick a thing. Also, the character roles, I will say they're changeable. If you don't want those character roles, you can freely change them, and I'll explain the other options that you have. And of course, if you have questions like, what does this mean? What do these mean? Feel free to ask as always. Is are folks okay with Marley taking the dependent? Cool. Yeah, well, you can claim that row or column, not row. No, there, yeah, column is that, row is that. Okay, cool. What for the rest of yourselves? Anything speaking out to you?
I'm just is the desire depend on which role you pick, or which or neither?
The desire.
I mean, it's not changing when I select things, so I'm like, is it?
Oh yeah, no, the desire, because no,
okay.
The desires are kind of like, because I picked this playset, the desires come with that. The only thing I would say please change is the character role. Suspect roles, I think, are tied to like the desires and relationships, so they're not going to change. They're set in stone.
Okay, that's what I was like. I didn't. I wasn't sure which the desire and relationship was connected to, whether it was the suspect role or the whatever the first one is called.
Oh yeah, the suspect, it was connected to the suspect role, but the desired relationships won't change, because this page is this specific playset in the book.
Got it. Okay.
Playset is like a combination of like desires, relationships, and roles.
Has anyone taken a socialite yet?
You mean the murderer?
Perhaps. Remains to be seen. Just looking at these, I feel like socialite would be fairly easy to do as someone who hasn't played the game before, so I'm leaning a little bit that direction, but just wanted to check and see what other people were thinking.
I am cool with whatever.
Okay.
Cool. Then David, take claim of the murderer socialite.
Murderer.
It means you get to decide how Lord Walnut came about to be on that pool of blood. No worries, Bethany.
I don't know. Witness seems fun.
Yeah, just to like just to be aware, folks, that would mean one of you will have to be a parent of your character. of your character. Bethany,
Oh,
since-
yeah, right. If nobody wants to do that, I can do I don't know, careerist. Pretty cool. Or what other?
the neat thing with the
Actress or
careerist.
meddler.
Oh, Marty, what did? Sorry, I think I spoke over someone.
Just, I am happy to play your parent. If you would like someone to play your parent.
Sure. Oh wow, you're the dependent, and I'm showing up, your illegitimate child, going, "Hey, acknowledge me." Oh, you're broke too. Oops.
Wow.
All right, that's
Okay, I'll go with that.
God.
Wow.
All right, Maria. You're either the prime suspect or the one who's going to take advantage of all this.
Okay.
I would say the character role, as in the box on the left, can be changed if you want to. So maybe Marley doesn't have to be a dependent, but maybe that's more fun because that dynamic sounds fun. I'm here, your illegitimate child. Oh, you're broke. Oh no.
I'm just looking at the opportunist desire. Is the new heir then the socialite? Who's going to be the new heir?
Yeah, I think because we're gonna determine our relationship to Lord Walnut. I think just for that to work, one of you is gonna be like the heir because he's dead. He be dead.
Or I could be the meddler and the prime suspect and practice my rivalry relationship. It's like my favorite relationship.
Okay, all right, okay, cool.
Okay. Just do that. I'll be the meddler / prime suspect.
Okay. I'm gonna hide our opportunistic careerist then.
I don't think I've been a meddler before.
Okay, yeah, it'll be fun. No, meddler's fun. Basically means get to be you're driven to be in other people's business, which is great. Okay, the next part is we're going to determine relationships. So I know, some folks may or may not have characters, but I've always found that, once you figure out what your relationship to others, it helps characters coalesce just a bit more. We already have one relationship. So Bethany's character is going to be the child of Rosemary Dubois. So that's one relationship given. So yeah, enter it there. So yeah, the other relations we have is that David, you are best friends with someone. Helpful when you're committing a murder, I guess. Basically the way this kind of works is that you can't give your relationship to someone who's already taken a relationship. So what it means is that you can't be best friends then with Rosemary because they've already received a relationship from Bethany. So you can be best friends with Bethany's character or Maria's character, and that's kind of how this works. So it's all even, so no one's left out. By the end of this, you will have, all of you would have both given and taken a relationship.
I am leaning a little bit towards Maria's character then. Just I'm kind of thinking of motives for murder in my head and just trying to kind of put puzzle pieces together. So I'm leaning towards being best friends with Maria's character.
Sure.
Because the prime suspect.
I was thinking about offering you a rivals relationship.
Ooh, that could be just as good though.
Yeah, so
okay.
The thing is relationships. Oh yeah. I was getting it now. Decide whether who you're the rivals or best friends because you can't be both.
Yeah.
Right.
You can't hand the relationship to someone and they hand it back to you because it becomes a loop. And because Marley's relationship is relations with someone, I can't be with Bethany because they're their child.
Yeah, it's true.
So yeah, up to yourselves. David, do you want to be best friends with Maria, or Maria, do you want to be rivals with David?
If I was rivals with Maria, then that would require me to be best friends with
Bethany.
With Bethany's character. No, I can make that work too. I just looking at the way it all clicks together, I could make that work too.
Yeah. Maria, what do you think? Do you want to be rivals with David or anyone else?
I mean, I could also see being best friends because I think, I don't know, if the murderer and the prime suspect are best friends.
The murderer's a dick. Nah. I would say.
That might be.
I didn't think of the whole prime suspect piece. That actually makes quite a lot of sense that we would be rivals, and actually, I mean, a meddler being rivals with the murderer, like, oh my gosh,
Okay.
the potential there. We can go with that suggestion.
All right. So
if you want, Maria.
Sure. I will be your rival then.
Okay.
So Bethany, we are good friends, is what I'm hearing.
Okay, cool.
Friends. All right, Marley, you are relations with someone. I would say that whoever your relations with, and that could be either your cousin or you're their aunt or you're their niece or whatnot, or maybe just cousins. It sounds like because you're the dependent, you would be living with them, basically. Which is kind of sad because you have a legitimate child and your dependent is, that's really sad.
Right, so I think if this works out right, there's only one person left. Who's left? Is that you, Maria?
I have given and not taken. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so there we go. Assuming your game?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, there we go. Okay, I think that's all the relationships. Oh, wait, yes, that would be because David, you're best friends with Bethany and rivals with Maria. Marley, you are relations to Maria and you have Bethany as your child. Maria, you are rivals with David and relations to Marley. And Bethany, we'll get to character names when we get to them. And Marley, and Bethany, you are the child of Marley's character and you are best friends with David. So there we go. We made a web. Now I'll let you all go to build characters now. So basically, you got names and some descriptions. Usually in the character roles, they ask for some, not like a big description. I know some folks have written gigantic descriptions, but those are hardcore good society players. You don't need to do that. Like maybe just like a look or an appearance or like a temperament. Some of the examples in the character role PDF are, the careerist, who sadly is not with us. That sounded morbid for some reason. Like for the careerist, the examples for appearance or temperament are like, for appearance, they're like strong, exuberant, or orderly. And their temperament is like, reserved or earnest or affectionate. It's also, there's like some examples of like what exactly what each role does. Like for the meddler, there's like they're an outrageous and inaccurate gossip, always scheming in the best interests of others, and possessed of few social barriers. So if you want like some more ideas for your character kind of building, there's stuff in the character roles sheet, which I should have a link. Hold on. If you need help with like what are appropriate names, what all that stuff, don't hesitate to ask. I should note as well that once you kind of have a description and a basic idea for your character, each of you has 3 backstory questions to ask. First is unique to. First is the same for everyone. What is your relationship to Lord Walnut? And then there's 2 that you can pick and choose, and they're both. And the 2 questions are appropriate to your suspect role. So that's a lot. So I'll leave you all, I'll leave you all to it. And again, if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask. And if you want to ask like stuff like, why are we rivals? Or why did you leave me? They're all very much out in the open. Like obviously the characters don't need to know them. Like, maybe Clifford doesn't know yet why Rosemary left him. But as players, we can know that to better like flesh out relationships. Don't hesitate to like ask each other some to help define your relationships with each other. I just looked at it. I was focused on the dependent being sad because I have an illegitimate child, and I saw their desire, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I remembered what their desire is: drive the family to this town, to self-destruction and ruin.
Rosemary, what is our relationship? Are you my aunt, or are we cousins?
Yeah, some sort of slightly distant relationship, I think.
What it I was thinking I was gonna write something about, like, I think I changed my name. It is Oaks Van Horn.
Okay.
And I was thinking that maybe like I inherited a bunch from my parents, and that bunch included a relative who lives in the house.
Wow.
Who is you, potentially?
Okay, that's interesting. I can go with that.
Okay. But I wonder, do we just look down on you because you're poor? Like,
Yeah, I think so. I feel like it's more fun if like I feel like Rosemary spent a lot of energy making sure that the fact that she's a child, that she has a child, was kept under wraps.
mm-hmm.
Or possibly your like your parents knew, and but they were the ones who wanted it hushed up.
Mm-hmm.
um and that did not get passed on to you. They never told you.
I just know that there's something about my relative that is scandalous, and yeah, I like that.
Okay.
I like that it's going to be like constantly bothering me that I never knew what it was that my parents had on you.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll find out.
And with a sunny disposition like that, how can people mistake you for a murderer?
I think I'm going to call you an aunt, if that works.
Sure.
Okay.
I wonder if Archibald is the one who informed me that Rosemary is my mother.
Oh, probably.
I don't know what your purpose for doing that was, but maybe just to get me here and frame me, but then you ended up framing Oaks instead.
Right. I'm looking at everybody else's stories here. I was so in tunnel vision on my own. Only recently learned that Rosemary was his mother. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Also, yeah, I only recently learned it, and I'm like, I haven't quite figured out what to do about that and how to approach her. So I am just creepily like hanging around and spying on her, and that doesn't look suspicious at all.
I'm sure I can come up with a reason. We all seem to be very tightly knit.
It would be curious and funny if like Archibald managed to find it out while Oaks, his rival, still doesn't know.
Yeah.
Maria, should they be members of Lord Walnut's family?
Are we?
Well, it would make sense for my character at least, because she's part of the whole burn down the family thing.
Okay.
So then it would motivate her being an accomplice.
Yeah. Are we like, yeah. Wait, I haven't even looked at these.
Oh. Okay.
What are the relationships?
Yeah, I'd say like while we're still forming up your main characters, then we'll get to backstory questions, because then that will flesh out how we're related to Lord Walnut, what we had to do, what your suspect roles, kind of how did they connect with their murder, but let's get like the main characters like story firmed up first. Don't let that stop you from peeking ahead, though. Like I'm not, do what's comfortable for yourselves. Sorry, just reading these backstories. They're great so far.
So if Oak's parents were Rosemary's guardians, are you like, is it like one of those like, I call you my aunt, but you're not really that much older than me type of things?
I think so.
Okay. Because otherwise, like, other people would be like, who's this random person? Be like, oh, she's definitely a relative. We have nothing to hide here.
Yes.
Okay, so once you think you're satisfied with your main characters, you can move ahead to the backstory questions. You'll always we'll always figure out what is your relationship to Lord Walnut. We already have one answer. Oh, Archibald. Lord Walnut probably called you Archie a lot.
Are there suggested relationships, or is it use your imagination?
There are some suggested in the PDF. If the players are stuck for ideas, some good choices are immediate family member, which I don't think any of you are. Otherwise, you'd have the name Walnut. And who wants that? I'd say that I did that last time I played Lady Susan. I was the heir. My name was Piers Walnut, and I was the murderer. Killed my. Well, he was my granddad. Well, still, as if that made it better. Either or an extended family member, like a cousin, uncle, niece. You can be like an adoptive or unacknowledged family member, like a illegitimate child or ward. You can be a business partner or associate, like Archibald is. They're business associates. You could be like a romantic connection, old flame, secret flame, fiance, or a close friend, like your childhood, college, fellow war veteran. Because the thing is, Lord Ernest Walnut, the most we know of him is those 3 words and how he died and why you're here to meet him. Doesn't really say how old he is, I would say he's probably quite old since Archibald was an apprentice of his. I mean, we can say that you're here to attend a family portrait, but maybe he considers family in a different way. He was apprenticed to Archibald, so he considers you family, and then you killed him. I'm imagining this manor just has a lot of paintings now because we're doing the whole painting motif.
How do we feel about hunting buddies? Is that too close to harm / cruelty to animals?
That's fine with me.
Okay.
No, and specifically domesticated animals, but that's perfectly fine to ask as well because hunting is contentious.
So Bethany, how do we feel about Lord Walnut being your secret dad?
Works for me.
Okay, we'll do it.
Oh my God. Oh, so that's how Archibald found out, because he was working for Clifford's dad.
Yep.
Are you okay with that, Archibald? Yeah.
That works. I wouldn't say we were working together. I wanted to work with him.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean I wasn't snooping around for anything that I could use to injure his social capital.
Yeah.
Shall we say.
So Rosemary, you killed your ex-lover?
No,
or helped kill?
Oh yeah, you are the accomplice. Man, you're making a shocked face. I don't know what you're doing that for. Wow, for this family portrait, Lord Walnut sure picked the weirdest collection of family. Maybe he has different family portraits. There's his immediate family, there's his extended family, and here's his found family. And he's now dead.
Well, secret family in some cases.
Secret family, there we go.
I think the thing I like most about this is the fact that Rosemary is the one who doesn't know that Clifford is her pick. And she's probably at the family portraiture being like, who's this random guy?
This guy again. Where'd he come from? Okay, so Lord Walnut knew that I was his kid, but I didn't know he was my dad. I did recently find out that Rosemary is my mom, but she doesn't know I'm her kid.
Right.
You just got
And
an
she didn't know that Lord Walnut knew that, yes.
Awesome.
Oh my god. This is already so much. I need a chart here on this wall of mine. It's all good. It's all good. Good. I love it. Okay, so yeah, you all have a choice of questions, and depending on how the coding of this, those should all be questions related to your suspect role. Like, very much doubt the witness is going to be asked how they murdered Lord Walnut.
One of my questions is, what evidence did you find in secret and what do you plan to do with it?
And that's something you can ask the murderer if there's any evidence that Clifford might have found.
I was going to say we can definitely collaborate on that. Right now, what I have as evidence is a letter that I forged, purportedly from Lord Walnut, requesting that he and I merge business ventures. He wants to work with me after all.
Yeah, sure, he wants that. Yeah, right.
Yes, yes.
So maybe I found that but don't realize it's forged.
Can we, does that count? Like, can we do the same item as both the evidence that I leave behind and the evidence that Clifford finds in secret? Or is it something where Clifford is supposed to find evidence that I'm not aware of?
Good question.
It's up to yourselves. It could be either. Like, do you think it's more interesting for the evidence you have left behind for Clifford to have found, or for Clifford to have found something that you didn't realize you left behind? Maybe you know about the letter because obviously you left it there, but maybe you left something else. that
right, yeah.
Clifford-
Right, I planted the letter,
Right.
but
So I would just
maybe
be like
there's-
playing into your hand's hit if I found that, unless I realized it was forged somehow.
perhaps. Trying to think.
I mean, how did you do it? The murder.
Well, he's under the second story window.
Oh yeah, he is.
My thinking perhaps is that I pushed him out the window, but only after he was already dead. I'm trying to make it seem like that was the cause of death, but the truth is I slipped arsenic into his tea or something to that effect. I sat down with him to talk business and poured a little something extra into his drink, and that's what did him in. So perhaps the evidence that Clifford finds in secret is
Like a container of rat poison or something.
an empty vial of some kind
Sure.
of poison. Everyone else is like, my goodness, his neck is broken. Clearly this is what happened, but you're
Right.
the one with the actual murder weapon.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, it says in the book like the witness. You can either be like you saw the murder or uncovered important events surrounding the murder. So it doesn't necessarily preclude that you have to see it happen.
Okay. Cool.
Maybe
cool.
you saw him fall, but didn't hear like
Right, and he looked like there was something a little bit off when I saw him fall, like, and I maybe didn't get a good look at him to see that he was already dead, but something was weird, it just wasn't.
he didn't scream. What's up with that?
We also need, so David, you and I haven't spoken much, how Rosemary and Archibald know each other, because apparently they're willing to plot murder together, at least to some extent.
Right. We should probably hash that out.
Yeah, I mean, she's got the, she certainly has, like, I don't think she's been very obvious about her resentment of her place and Lord Walnut, but if you have figured out the situation with her child, you probably might guess that she's not hugely excited by him.
Yes.
So yeah, what that would take, like, she could provide a distraction of some kind, or
I wonder, do you think that this whole murder plot was Archibald's idea or Rosemary's idea? Irrespective of who actually carried out the deed.
oh, interesting. Yeah. Maybe she knew from back in the day that there was like this particular, that Lord Walnut always hid a flask in a particular place. So you could doctor the flask, at some point when no one else was around, and then do it that way. So yeah, maybe she provided the plan.
I like that. Okay. So it was a situation perhaps where maybe Rosemary came to Archibald and said, hey, I have a proposition for you. I don't have access to Lord Walnut. I've been spurned by him, but you still have some contact with him. So he has this flask, and then we kind of build off of it from there.
Yeah. So is it well known? How would she know that Archibald would be open to this?
I think that Archibald was publicly embarrassed. He was well known as Lord Walnut's apprentice at one time. He ventured out kind of on his own to try to basically do business. They worked in imports and exports. But the big downfall for Archibald is that he's just frankly not that smart. He's just very bad at business stuff. And so when he tried to compete with Lord Walnut and failed, he comes back to Lord Walnut and tries very hard to be kind of readmitted into his good graces to be a business partner with him again. Lord Walnut says, "My God, no, absolutely not." And it was this great humiliating affair. Probably was a public rejection.
Burning, yeah.
Yeah. And that was years ago. And everyone else has moved on, but perhaps to Rosemary, it's quite apparent that Archibald is still quite burned by
Okay.
this.
Love it. Let's do it.
All right. And poor Clifford, I wonder if Clifford, like to turn in Archibald would almost be like revealing Clifford's own mother as an accomplice.
Yeah.
Well, meanwhile, Oaks is just like, I'm just trying to live my life.
Oh, my family. I was thinking about this rivalry between Archibald and Oaks, and I was wondering if it's that like Archibald is jealous of my friendship and hunting buddies and art buddies with Lord Walnut. Oh wait, no. Wait. I am the one for who this is a bitter rivalry. I'm jealous that you were once apprentices with Lord Walnut. All I've got is like frivolous, fun things, nothing serious. Potentially.
You get paintings when you wanted like a working relationship, which Archibald didn't even get as well. Like he got a sliver of it, like an apprenticeship. I mean,
but you could have done so much better than Archibald. You know, you could have actually been good at business.
Honestly, yeah. I've had this experience taking care of a family, you see.
All these petty, terrible people, and Clifford.
I was gonna say this is.
Oh,
really
nobody's saying
Coen
Clifford
brothers.
isn't terrible. He's just hasn't revealed how terrible he is yet. Maybe.
I do like that idea. We're all terrible people except for Clifford until it's revealed that Clifford's the worst one of all.
Yeah. Okay. It sounds like we're kind of nearly done with like at least firming this all together. Is there like any more lingering questions that people need answered? If not, what I'm gonna do is just get everyone to like formally introduce their characters, and then we'll take a break. Is there any more questions that like need like establishing? Any more facts that we need to find out?
I just had one question. In Archibald's bio thing, Clifford's aunt, is that Rosemary? Or who does Archibald?
Let me, in the bio, let me read over that. Clifford's aunt. I'm sorry, Clifford's mother.
Okay.
Thank you for pointing that out. That would be confusing.
I was like,
I'm your illegitimate nephew. Oh, no. Not as scandalous.
Yeah. I'm secretly related to everybody in this group. Some way.
Okay. I think let's reintroduce these characters, and includes like telling us what your answer for your backstory questions are. So let's go left to right in the character sheet. So we'll start with our murderous socialite. David, why don't you introduce us to him?
Yes, it would be my pleasure to introduce you all to Archibald St. John. He was the former apprentice of Lord Walnut, who worked in the import and export of Indian textiles. And when he came of age, he struck out on his own to compete directly against his former, I suppose, teacher. And he was terrible at it. He could not stand on his own 2 feet, had horrible business acumen, comes back to talk to Lord Walnut saying, "Can I please rejoin your business ventures?" He is publicly rejected and humiliated years ago and has carried on this grudge against him ever since that day.
Can you remind us of how you did the deed?
Yes, with information relayed to him by his accomplice Rosemary, Archibald, on the pretense of requesting a meeting with Lord Walnut, slipped a bit of arsenic or some similar kind of poison into a flask that the man kept perhaps under his desk or in some other area, but hidden away. And then after the man was dead, Archibald creeps in, hefts his body up and out the window, and tries to frame it as a different cause of death than it was, before leaving a forged note suggesting that Lord Walnut actually did want to invite Archibald back to work with him, just so that it wouldn't seem like Archibald had a motive. He was well liked by Lord Walnut. They wanted to work together. Why would he kill him?
Yeah, that makes no sense. Yeah, it's fine. You know, Archibald's shocked by this murder. I shouldn't determine how you feel. How you publicly.
I am shocked. I'm determined to find the murderer and, you know, see to it that this lady detective puts the right person behind bars.
Good luck with that. Up next, speaking of accomplices, Marley, why don't you reintroduce us to said accomplice?
Right. So Rosemary Dubois, she, her, was Lord Walnut's mistress back in the day, and was under the impression that he would either marry her or at the very least take care of her. And then when she became pregnant, suddenly she got cut off. As a favor to Lord Walnut, Oakes's parents took her in and had made arrangements for the baby. And so she has been this weird dependent relative ever since, growing in frustration over time, though she always keeps it inside. She is the one who came up with the plan, drawing on her knowledge of Lord Walnut's habits from back when she knew him better, and suggested the method to Archibald, though has been increasingly dismayed as she realizes that he has been improvising. What on earth would you do? Why on earth would you then throw him out the window? That makes no sense. What is this about a letter? But, well, at least if he gets caught, it all gets pointed back to him. And she can continue to plot. Perhaps Oakes is next.
So who's the murderer and who's the accomplice again?
He just made suggestions. Just suggestions.
Wow. That's amazing. All right. So speaking of the Van Horns, Oaks, why don't you introduce us to the prime suspect, apparently.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not as suspicious as any of you. I am Oakes Van Horn, a kind of a, he is the, like, he inherited a whole bunch of stuff from his parents who perished in some sort of accident. Maybe that's why people suspect him. He inherited the family name, which used to be great, but it's sort of like, we're not really doing much right now. I inherited a mansion and a whole bunch of scandals because I also apparently inherited a dependent aunt, question mark, who is hiding something. My parents just always had her in our mansion, and I kind of grew up. She's not that much older than me, but I kind of grew up thinking that she was some sort of relation. And no matter how much I tried to find out, no one would tell me anything. I am an active looking fellow, kind of the person who you'd imagine in like those like brown and green waistcoats going out and hunting and traipsing through the countryside. I like to be involved in everyone's business and look for opportunities to invest my time, effort, and money. I do not want my aunt to find independence, though, because she might start spreading things about my family that I do not want her to spread. And I have no idea that everyone around me is apparently related. I think that Archibald is a person who was unworthy of the attention that Lord Walnut paid to him. Clearly, Walnut should have chosen me. I was a great friend, and I'm responsible and stuff.
Sure. Because I don't think it's mentioned here in the recording, because people might be watching this. So what public evidence, since that's the question you picked, suggests you're the murderer?
Yeah.
Why are you the prime suspect?
Honestly, I don't know. Is it because I'm like big and look like I can heft people over balconies? But the answer I picked was I left a walking stick with my initials in the painting studio that Lord Walnut has. Like, that's conveniently located above the balcony where his body was found, or that area anyway. And people are like, well, this is a sign that Oaks Van Horn was present in this room. And Oaks Van Horn, we all know, is a strong man.
Wow, Lady Susan has quite the deductive skills. Because also right now, when we get to one of the phases, what the prime suspect means is they get to be interviewed first. So we'll get to that. We'll get there. Don't worry. And last but not the least, we've heard talk of our illegitimate child. Bethany, can you introduce us to said child, who's no longer a child, just the youngest?
Yeah. Playing Clifford Mills, who is the illegitimate son of both Rosemary and Lord Walnut. He knows about Rosemary. She doesn't know about him. Lord Walnut knew about him, but he doesn't know about Lord Walnut. He was invited here. Maybe Lord Walnut was going to tell him, because this seems to be a mostly family/close friends event. And like, he barely knew the guy. So, maybe this was where that information was going to be relayed, but that didn't happen because Lord Walnut was murdered. I did get a very obstructed glimpse of Lord Walnut being thrown out the window. I didn't see who did it, but I did see that he wasn't screaming or struggling. Which is weird because it sure seems like he would be. And I also found this empty vial. I don't know what was in it, but it smells funny.
Rosemary's thinking, I should have asked Oaks to do this.
Also, I was told that Rosemary is my mother. I just recently found that out, and I am not really sure how to approach her yet. Like, I don't know much about her, so I've just kind of been spying on her, which is a little creepy and might look a little suspicious. But the person who told me that was Archibald.
Being a helpful friend.
Yeah, being a helpful friend. Exactly. He's a good friend.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. That's a ridiculous bunch of characters. They're great. Let's take like a good let's get a good 10-minute break. Let's come back after 10 minutes, and then we're gonna jump right in and unspool the the horrific consequences of this web. We'll see you in 10, folks. Okay, so before we get into play proper, I'm gonna explain like a few mechanical things about how Good Society works for those who haven't played. The main thing I want you to notice are a couple of things. First, there's the cycle of play. Basically, Good Society is like kind of like it's a fairly rigid format. Depending on the game or expansion, you've got phases, and I'll tell you what we're going to do in each phase, basically, and what that phase means. For those who have played Good Side before, Lady Susan has quite a different cycle play compared to regular ones, but we'll get the difference when we get there. The other main thing I want you to keep in mind are resolve tokens. You each have a pool. Basically, resolve tokens are what you kind of use to like change the narrative or impact the narrative. Like basically, they're kind of like an invitation to add an idea into the world. So they're mainly used if you want like your major character to do something difficult or unlikely with some significance, you spend a resolve token. If you want to create, contribute, or change in narrative events or details that are significant to the story and are beyond the actions of any character, you spend a resolve token. If you want to compel a major character to do or feel something, you spend a resolve token. For example, there's a clandestine meeting happening in this hallway, and you want your character to have witnessed it by, I don't know, you're looking through a painting's eyes, that sort of thing. Then you'll pay a resolve token to the person most impacted by your decision. Or if you want to say, oh, maybe these two characters, I don't know, trapped in this gazebo by this rainstorm, and they have to, I don't know, they have to talk to each other. I don't know what's going to happen there. You spend a resolve token. Or, oh no, I can't get to the wedding of my love because my carriage is broken down. You spend a resolve token for that. They're basically invitations to collaborate. You don't have to be in the scene to like spend a resolve token. You say like, ooh, maybe it'd be interesting if Oaks let slip of the secret. I'll offer you a resolve token for this, Oaks. I see Maria's making that we're gonna have to negotiate face, because the thing is, it's all negotiation as well. You can choose to refuse a resolve token if like something's offered to you and you're like, I'm not keen for that. It's all about negotiation for sure. Like I said, things won't happen in this game unless we have enthusiastic consent for it to happen. So that's basically how resolve tokens work. And again, if you want to ask, like, can I do this with this resolve token? Definitely feel free to ask. The other thing are monologue tokens. So every character has a rich internal world that maybe they don't want to share to the whole world, but they can definitely share it to us, the players and the viewers. So monologue tokens are fairly simple. You have one, you spend it on another person if you want to hear their internal monologue, what they're thinking about at that moment. And you can ask a question as well, like, what is Oaks? I don't know why I'm picking on Oaks. What does Oaks think about I don't know, about why he dotes on Archibald and not on him, Oaks. Maybe you can ask maybe Oaks has asked that, and then you'll hear their monologue about it. And you don't have to actually monologue. Don't worry, no one expects you to be, Shakespearean actors. That's ridiculous. So you can just like describe their thought process. That's perfectly fine. That goes for like, talking as well. There is a lot of like character to character talking in this game, but like if you want to just say, here's what I think X character expresses, that's perfectly fine as well. Is that good, folks? Again, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to ask. We're all here to learn and have fun. Okay, so Lady Susan starts with what's called a novel chapter. In Good Society, novel chapters are basically where the role playing happens. They're kind of like where characters meet and talk and whatnot. Usually, in normal Good Society, you choose what type of novel chapter, like maybe you're all in a big event or it's just a series of visitations. But here in Lady Susan, it's mostly the first novel chapter specifically is basically like just introductions. The first novel chapter begins with like a series of introductory scenes to explore the relationships. Okay, so let me reread the details of Lord Walnut's demise, just so we all remember. The evening prior, Lord Walnut had invited y'all to attend a family portrait painting. And let's say the portrait painting has already started. So there is a half-finished, but I say half, there's a lot of you. There is a started portrait hanging in the studio somewhere in this manner. It's nearly done. But unfortunately, the celebrations met an unfortunate end, and he was found under the second story window earlier today. The first novel chapter begins a few hours after Lord Walnut has been found by his valet. So this is all immediate. This is all happening quite soon. The Lord Walnut has been found by the valet, and y'all have been made aware of his death. and the lawyer's impending arrival. So the way this kind of works is I'm going to ask each of you to set a short introductory scene with a character of your choice. So at the very least, we get 4 scenes in this novel phase. We're kind of like introducing and fleshing out each, finding out each other's dynamic, and we're basically here to like introduce the characters, establish character dynamics, initial tensions, get to see where we start off. So yeah, who has an idea of who they want to interact with in this introductory chapter? I would call people up, but I can see David has a cat in the background. I'm just curious what they're doing.
I was just very distracted by the cat.
No. You don't have to do anything.
Very sorry.
You don't have to do anything, David. It's fine. We love to be distracted by the cat. Oh no, there's a puppy as well. Okay, all right.
Doomed.
Can we just do this? Why are we playing a game of murder? Okay.
The dog is chewing a bone very loudly to provide the proper ambiance.
God. Yeah. Who has an idea of who they want to see the character?
Throwing ideas out there. There could be a meeting between myself and Rosemary, kind of informing her that, clearly the deed is done, and I probably have a very high opinion of myself right now. I think it went off without a hitch. Everything is fine. You and I should just lay low and we'll be out of here in no time. Just answer the questions. I'm sure there will be a small investigation, but nothing to worry about. Just, to use the anachronistic wording, be cool. Just that's kind of the idea that I came up with. It's one idea.
Yeah, I love that. I was kind of wondering if maybe there was a scene where Rosemary was like, so he's under a window, apparently.
All right, let's set the scene and play it out. Where do you think this meeting is happening? There could be. You can establish whatever you want about Lord Walnut's manor. Are you or maybe you're in a secret passageway? Who knows?
Secret passage.
Do we want to do secret passage?
Love secret passages. Whoever doesn't want to be in the secret passage?
Secret passage. What rooms does it connect, or is it a secret to the it goes under the fountain in the garden or something like that? I'm trying to think of where it would lead to.
Like that, it's an escape route.
Ooh, escape route. I like that. It goes from the back hallway, like sort of underground, and then sort of comes out in the far side of the gardens.
Okay, got it. All right, so perhaps immediately prior to the scene, I dramatically expressed great concern for Lord Walnut and insisted that I have to step out to get a bit of fresh air. And then I slipped into the secret passage where I had previously, with Rosemary, agreed to meet. Okay. So, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I'll leave it to the two of you.
All right. So I think that what I'll do is I have just finished making this big fuss in front of all the servants and all in front of everybody, loudly proclaiming that I vow to get whoever did this hideous deed, and nobody had better leave here until the lady detective arrives. It's only a matter of time, and we'll get to the bottom of this. I will be back shortly. And then I disappear in a huff into the secret passage, turn the corner, and then I just smile to myself and fix my collar and stroll happily up to Rosemary and say, well, Ms. Dubois, the deed is done.
So I am given to understand, and with additional embellishment, I see.
Embellishment? Oh.
Why?
You don't have to be so complimentary.
Well, certainly I don't really. I was wondering what the need, what need caused the defenestration. What I had imagined, I assume, that his lordship would be found perhaps in his bed or otherwise lying somewhere as if he had died of a heart attack. And yet now I hear he is below a broken window.
Well, he is, but you must understand, or the purpose of all of this is to throw them off of our trail. And if they find him lying in some peaceful eternal slumber, they will immediately assume that it was something to the effect of poisoning. But if we have him at the bottom of a broken window, well, now someone of my slight build could never throw him out a window. He's a corpulent old man.
Yes.
Do you see my reasoning here, Rosemary? These are some intellectual matters we're engaged with.
Yes, indeed. Your mind is truly an astounding contraption. I could not possibly hope to follow its twists and turns. I presume all evidence has been neatly removed. Bottles
All
disposed
evidence.
of, gloves put in the fire, this sort of thing.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I intend to dispose of the remnants right after our conversation. I intend to leave this little tunnel we're in, deposit some things, down by the pond outside of here, and everything will be taken care of at that time. I've already instructed the remainder of the servants to remain inside the house, in the Great Hall, well away from the windows that could possibly see me going out to the pond.
All
In
right.
other words, nothing to worry about.
Excellent. Then I will not be concerned.
That could be seen, unless there's anything else you want to bring up, Rosemary.
Did he understand the betrayal?
I don't think so.
Pity.
My one regret. But it is some small comfort to me that he surely knows he had it coming.
Excellent.
Very well. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to finish some business. As for you, just remain in the area, draw no attention to yourself, interact casually with everyone else. We will be out of here in no time.
Of course. I will take your most excellent advice.
Until next time. And I will evilly twist my mustache and skitter away down the hall, I suppose. This man is a caricature.
I will pay a resolve token to, I think, who has the empty vial? To Clifford, for Archibald to, in his preparation to dispose evidence, discover that the vial poison is missing. And I'm paying this to Clifford because they have the vial.
Sure, yeah.
But Archibald will know that it's missing.
Cool.
You won't know that Clifford has it, but yeah. If that's okay with the both of you. Okay.
Right. So it would be me going down to the pond to throw away the vial only to realize it is not, in fact, in my pocket.
Wait, throughout this time, you just assumed it was in your pocket.
Wait a minute. Right.
Oh, go ahead, Maria.
Can I also possibly offer Archibald a resolve token to see him walking to this pond? Or like catch him at the pond? Because I think Oaks is a rambling sort of person and would have taken a turn around the grounds upon hearing that his best hunting buddy is dead.
That works for me. So does that mean that I obtain a resolve token?
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yes.
it's really like a currency exchange is what's happening here.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
It's totally $5 under the table to get you to do what I want.
Okay, got it. That works for me.
So does Oak see you disposing it, or just right after you're disposing the evidence?
My thinking is that I actually don't have any evidence to dispose because I accidentally left it and now Clifford has it. Like I get to the pond, dig through my pockets, have a moment of panic, and then try to improvise what to do from there.
Does the secret passageway come out, like, is it when you get to the pond, is it like out of a secret passageway? Like that's sort of suspicious.
That's my thinking. I envision it as a secret passage that is, in theory, an escape route, but it could just as easily be used for smuggling imports and exports to avoid tariffs or something along those
Cool.
lines. Maybe that's how he did so well in business.
Amazing. Okay. That's weird. What is Archibald doing outside? He doesn't exercise.
I'll pay a resolve token to confront him, Oaks.
I don't think you have to.
Oh, you're gonna do it. You're gonna do it.
I'll just do it if that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah. I think there's like, as you're like maybe walking back from the pond, you hear like footsteps running, and this very large outdoorsy fellow claps a hand on your shoulder. Archibald, St. John.
Mr. Van Horn, fancy seeing you out here, given all of the hustle and bustle that's going on inside the manor.
Fancy seeing you out here, given your general being.
Well, after all of the chaos that was going on, sheer havoc, I had to get some amount of fresh air and attend to my appearance, I say, going over to some flowers in the garden and looking for one to pick.
Are you going to find Lord Walnut a funeral bouquet of some sort?
Well, that was not my intention. You see, it's just so inappropriate that I wear this beautiful, I'm pointing to this flower that I have kind of like tucked into my suit coat or something to that effect. It's this color is completely inappropriate for the occasion. I need something that is more of a sign of mourning. Here, this, and I just pick a random flower, and I take the old one and crush it, and the petals fall dramatically from my hand, and I replace it with the new one. There, all better.
I see. Was it? And like I think Oaks looks like. Did you have to take the long way to get here, or was that just a wish of yours to avoid being seen?
The long way, you say?
Well, the path through the gardens would have been a much more efficient way for you to change flower.
Yes, I suppose it would, but you understand that I am truly
Frail.
a solitary, sensitive soul, Mr. Van Horn, and I appreciate my solitude when I can have it. Is there any other business that we have to attend to here? What are you doing out here?
Unlike you, I am a man of nature, so I do not think it is really that much of a surprise for me to be out here. After all, my good friend Lord Walnut has just perished, and I must console myself with the outdoors.
Yes, you always were a primal soul.
Indeed.
One lacking in culture.
I would say that I have more a grip of culture than you. After all, you and Lord Walnut never attended art galleries together, did you?
Art galleries.
I had the pleasure of hearing his truly insightful comments on the artists of our generation, and the two of you, I'm sure, never had that deep of a friendship.
Mr. Van Horn, I'll have you know that I just recently received word from Lord Walnut that he wished to actually extend an offer to join him in a business partnership. So please do not amuse me with talks of frivolous ventures to art galleries. He and I have a much, much more meaningful relationship than I'm afraid you were ever able to obtain.
A pity for you, then, that his unfortunate demise will end in the unfortunate demise of your business ventures.
It is a great loss, Mr. Van Horn, although I can't help but notice that you are not affected by it in any meaningful way.
Just because a man hides his feelings in his heart does not mean that he does not have any feelings.
Yes, it seems you have much to hide, Mr. Van Horn. Please, I will be retiring back into the manor, but please do not leave the property. Not, of course, until the lady detective arrives. I'm sure she will have much to ask you.
I would hate to miss any of the juicy goings on that may be revealed by the lady detective's arrival. I will see you later.
Good day, Mr. Van Horn.
Just
And
go
I
stalking
look-
off into the distance.
I look down with horror at the flower that I've selected. It's completely wrong. But I try to keep it together as I walk away.
But that was happening. I wanted to like, all right, one of you should just kiss the other. This is just so much tension. Okay, let's see Clifford. We have not seen him yet, so Bethany, who do you want to see this introductory scene with? You think?
I am in the painting studio, so anyone who wants to walk in on me there. I'm standing there, sort of turning this glass vial over in my fingers and looking at the various like, paints and turpentine, and looking at the painting and just kind of studying everything, because sniff the vial, sniff the turpentine, not the same. Maybe it's an ingredient for one of the paints.
Can't believe Clifford's just getting high.
It's entirely possible that it might have that side effect. He's not doing it on purpose, but
Sure, I'll jump in on this. So Rosemary enters. She is, I never described her. I think she was quite a beauty back in the day and has aged extremely well. For what the society considers her incredibly advanced age of 39. So she has changed into her most subdued gown, not realizing she was going to attend a funeral. She of course does not have black. She has an embroidery hoop, but it's just sort of hanging at her side. And she walks in on Clifford, sniffing paint. And I think she says, I think she waits a beat, and then she says, "Oh, excuse me," and turns to leave.
Oh, Miss Dubois, hi. Were you looking for something? Someone?
No, it's just, the light's a bit better in here. I'm not disturbing you?
Oh no, I was just leaving. Come in.
Thank you. And rather than taking a seat, she'll go up to the painting and sort of observes it as it's sort of half filled in.
Strange, isn't it? It's
a curious collection of people, don't you think?
Yes, I have no idea why I was invited here. I've only met him a few times.
Myself, and given such a prominent position in the composition, it's an interesting choice. He did, I understand from Oakes, he and Lord Walnut and Oakes share a love of art. So one would have to assume that was a deliberate choice on his part.
Yes, you'd think that if he was only looking for the aesthetic effect, Oaks would have the most prominent position. He's or yourself.
Can I suggest, and I don't know who I'll pay the resolve token to, what the composition of where is seated at, of wherever Clifford is. He is flanked by Rosemary and Lord Walnut for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Rosemary is one of the sharper tools in this shed. She's
Maybe she should have done the
Clifford
murder.
is not.
yeah. Well, she had a fine murder plan. Just stuck to the plan. Yeah, she's I'm not sure she's quite putting two and two together, but she's certainly, how interesting that they placed me beside you like this.
Yeah. Yes. What was your relation to him?
He's a friend of the Van Horns. I am a aunt in that family.
Maybe who knows what his thoughts were behind this. He didn't have a chance to explain it to any of us.
Yes. So what was your relationship with him?
Near stranger.
You're a stranger.
I've met him a
Okay.
few times. He always asked me questions. He seemed to take some interest in my life, but I always thought he was just being polite. And I'm like fiddling with the vial, which is in my pocket, and I think finally, like the fumes from the chemicals in here are starting to get to me.
Well, indeed. Perhaps we could start by recorking them. And she starts.
Yeah,
taking
yes,
all the
yes,
bottles
of course,
at
of course. And I'm
different
like capping
times.
all the bottles. I just yeah, I just found I wanted to compare the smell with another scent that I found shortly before what happened. This, out of character, this is the room he was like thrown out of, right? So there's like the broken window right there, or
Oh, I didn't think it was.
the open window. It would be not, or it
What do you
was
think,
it.
Archibald? Do you think, or were you thinking somewhere else?
It can be. That's perfectly fine. Speaking of, and by the way, are we just supposed to like kind of jump in whenever we want to offer a resolve token, or do we do that at the start of the scene? Is there like a time designated for it?
If whenever you have an idea, just like if you want to like flag, just say like, oh, I've got an
Okay,
idea.
I was
for
gonna
resolve
say
token.
I
Have an idea.
will offer a resolve token to Bethany if you, not necessarily confess, we don't need that, but like let's slip a clue as to your heritage to kind of complicate matters between yourself and Rosemary.
Right.
Are you done?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of what that clue would be. I think I just sort of look back at the painting, one last time, and I do wonder why he placed me so close to him rather than any of you all who were closer to him than. And I don't mention at all that it's like I'm not curious at all, or I don't even like. It doesn't strike me as strange that like there's also me and Rosemary standing very close together. It's like I'm just not really thinking about it, but to me that makes sense.
So Rosemary is certainly getting some of this relationship stuff from the painting, but I think has taken it in a different direction and thinks Clifford was Lord Walnut's latest paramour, and that is why they are chronological. And says, yes, perhaps he.
It's possible that well, no, I don't know about Rosemary, and never mind. I was going to say I might be assuming that I'm the only one who isn't in that picture, but I don't know about him and Rosemary. So.
Yeah. It does seem as though perhaps he viewed you and I in a similar light. And, points at some of the shading that is sort of reflected in on Clifford and Rosemary, but not some of the other figures. Though perhaps I'm reading far too much in a half-finished painting.
The same colors for both of us on that side, and then a different set of colors for the other two,
mm-hmm.
And then Lord Walnut has yet a slightly different. Oh, maybe. Well, it's hard to tell what he was planning with this painting. It's not finished. I wonder what it would have looked like when it was done.
We could perhaps ask the artist, though perhaps he is left considering.
I haven't.
Is there anything else we need from the scene?
No, I don't think so. I think I walk over and close the window in spite of the fact that I've just been complaining about the fumes.
Okay.
Without looking down.
Okay.
Yeah, any parting lines from Rosemary or Clifford?
Yes, I think at this point she is going to take her leave. Yeah, that was kind of strange that he closed the window, though then again, we are yeah, maybe that'll be her parting line. Yes, fumes or no, perhaps it's best that windows be secured. I will see you at tea.
Yes.
And she leaves.
And I'm like watching after her until she disappears around the corner.
Cool. I think, let's see. We might be able to squeeze in one more. Well, I think we've introduced all the characters, I think, fully. Well, not fully, but like we've got a good snapshot of them. Oh no, my internet is being annoying. Oh no. Oh dear.
Did he freeze?
Oh, that was like a temporary freeze, and then it just
Okay, cool. Hello. My internet froze there for a moment, but yeah, I was saying, like, I think it seems like we got a good snapshot of all these characters for the moment. So if that's okay with folks, we'll move on to the next phase. Cool. So I think you're all drawn to, like, the drawing room, and the Walnut lawyer is kind of like explaining that as close confidants of Lord Walnut, we have all been invited to a reading of his will. He had very few immediate family. Gives you all a look because none of your immediate family. So You're all expected to be at the reading. Normally, we would have the reading of the will on as close to the day of his departure as soon as possible, but because of the unusual circumstances, and as soon as he says unusual circumstances, you hear just like loud striding, kind of like do do do, very confident footsteps coming towards you through the door, and when the door opens, out steps out this like lady in this like velvet coat. She's like closer to like Rosemary's age, but she's got like gray, like steel colored hair, kind of, and she looks like she can, she looks very solidly built, as if like she can, like, she can smash a coconut with her chin. She has a tremendous jawline, I'd say. And once the lawyer says unfortunate circumstances, Lady Susan bursts in, all that, and says, "When unfortunate circumstances arrive, so do I." Lady Susan, at your service. The Lord Walnut's lawyer was quite quick to secure my services, and I only hope to repay such haste with a thorough examination and perhaps the furnishment of answers that would hopefully put all your minds at ease. And she's saying that as she's kind of like pacing around, and as she's pacing, like she just like without even looking is pouring herself tea. It's not even waiting for someone to invite her. Yes, Maria, she can have Lord Walnut over the balcony, but obviously she wasn't here, so rule her out of the suspects. Yeah, and I think like she's gonna pace around and says, "I've already had a scan of the estate, but of course more thorough investigations will be done. But for now, for this phase of my investigation, I will require a chance to have a lovely conversation with the four of you, one-on-one, just you and I. And perhaps we should start with Mr. Van Horn." Gives you kind of like this smile. One would say that you are a close confidant, nay, the closest to one Lord Walnut in this room. Wouldn't you think so?
He will nod and like I think you can see him side-eyeing Archibald when she says that. Maybe even winking. He totally winks at Archibald.
Well, perhaps one who Lord Walnut placed his utmost confidence and trust on?
I'd certainly like to think so. I have, after all, had to hear his great many opinions on a great many artists. And while I do agree with most of them, there were some we disagreed upon. And it is only the closest a friend who would allow that to be the case.
Yes, I suppose that all that has been borne out in public opinion. After all, you and he have been seen quite close together in the public for quite some time. I suppose you've also been seen in public with this, and I don't know where she pulls out the cane from, but she suddenly just has it in her hands, and she's just kind of like twirling it, and then you can see like the initials, very fancy Oaks Van Horn initials kind of like on it. Funny what one finds skulking around one's painting studio, Mr. Van Horn.
Yes. I accidentally left that one afternoon, coming in after a ramble to go talk to Ernest as we often did and walked out without it. I do not need it. It is just a mark of my gentlemanly status.
I suppose that can be good enough for your fellow suspects, but for a more thorough chat, Mr. Van Horn, I would direct you to that room, points the cane to another room, where we can have a more involved discussion.
My dear Lady Susan, would you not rather take a turn around the grounds? You seem like a woman who appreciates nature.
Oh, Mr. Van Horn, unfortunately, I do dislike rambling and ramblers. Would you follow me? And she will kind of like open the door to like the smaller sitting room where there's like 2 chairs set up, and she gestures for you to follow her.
He will get up and walk.
Okay, so we are in the second phase, which is the interview phase. So don't worry, not every single one of you will be interviewed by Lady Susan. But the way this works, and I'll say right now straight up, Lady Susan isn't here to solve the mystery. She's here to inflame tensions. That's her main goal as a character. So what's going to happen is each of you is going to be interviewed, but all the other players are the ones submitting the questions. And these are players, not characters. So basically, yeah. And you can ask like any kind of question relating to what's happening. If you don't have like ideas, there's suggestions. I just put in the folder in the suspect roll sheets. There's like suggestion questions. Yeah, well, let's get this started. So, I think Lady Susan has already sat down, and she says, "Would you like some tea, Mr. Van Horn, or perhaps something a bit stronger?"
Stronger. It is, after all, a terrible day for all of us.
Mm-hmm. I think she pours you like some scotch.
Is it out of a hip flask?
Oh yeah, she would have a hip flask. Yeah.
I love her so much.
Okay, so we know what your epilogue is gonna be. And she kind of like directs it at you and says like, "Must be quite a shock, I suppose. Someone as close as you to Lord Walnut, for him to just go like that. It must be quite something, don't you think?"
He didn't just go, Lady Susan. People do not just go over their balconies.
Nevertheless, there he went, and I'm sure you must be quite distraught given your friendship with him.
Yes, I do admit it will be hard to imagine leaving here and never coming back.
Does anyone have a question for Mr. Van Horn? Sorry, yeah, you're all watching. Like, no, I have to think of a question. And it could be like, what does Van Horn think of this character, or where were you at the time of the murder? Is usually a good one. What are your thoughts about the inheritance? Do you suspect anyone? Actually, I put the there's like a list of generic questions in the PDF and in the suspect roll sheets here.
Yeah, I'm curious what Oaks thinks happened.
Okay, so Lady Susan will take a sip from her flask. She doesn't need a glass. And we'll say, well, given your closeness to him and your rather vociferous opinions, Mr. Van Horn, what do you suppose happened to your friend?
Well, to me, there is one person, I think, who clearly has some animosity for Ernest. Archibald St. John has never... He tries, poor man, he tries, but I can see now that perhaps much of Archibald's behavior may be false.
I've heard of a few tales of Mr. St. John, mostly of his business ventures. Though I will point out that he is of a slight figure. Do you really think he could have hefted your friend through that window?
Well, perhaps he had some help.
I think you can feel Lady Susan looking at your arm, seeing like, look analytical. No, don't think of it that way. She's being analytical about this, or maybe you think she's looking at your arms. Who knows? But the camera will like notice Oak's larger frame. Who knows? Anyone have? Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's see where we're going with this. Who else has a question for Mr. Van Horn or for Oaks? And feel free to if you want him to expound more on what he thinks of Archibald, what he thinks of anyone else in this. Like, what does he think of Rosemary, or that strange Mr. Ooh, okay. I think okay, cool. Bethany submitted a question there. I think like Lady Susan, stop looking at your arms, and will say, Mr. Lord Walnut kept very few close friends, and you were, I suppose, fortunate enough to be part of that circle. Did you ever know, though, that he had intimated to perhaps to less salubrious circles, to more circles where I go around, that he felt that he was a target, that someone was out to get him? Did he ever say something of the sort to you, Mr. Van Horn?
I am trying to figure out. So out of character, Archibald knows that Rosemary is Clifford's mother. Okay.
Yes.
The problem is like, Oaks, you are out of the loop in
I am
terms of
very
all
out
that.
of the loop about all of this. So I wonder if, but Rosemary and Archibald, like Rosemary had something against Lord Walnut.
Yes, I think you probably would know, because since you're friends, that she was his mistress. Maybe you knew about the whole. Well, of course, yeah, because she's dependent on you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so maybe I knew about that scandal, but I didn't know about the child. If that works.
Is that okay with you, Rosemary? Okay.
I can give you a token if it. Okay, so yeah, I think. Oh, but that implicates me. It's a scandal.
Well, no, because he inherited it.
Yeah, that's true.
You can say that. They're like, this isn't me. This is her business.
Well, okay, so I think Oaks, like, noticing Lady Susan has been checking out his arms, crosses his arms, and is actually no, he puts them behind his head. Yeah, that's better. And he's just like, well, this is just something that I've had the unfortunate fortune to inherit from my family, and from my close connection with Lord Walnut, my distant relative, she may be my aunt. We won't go into that very much. She and Lord Walnut did not always get along either, and To be honest, I feel like Ernest was a little bit more, well, he almost seemed tentative around her, and Ernest was never a man for tentative feelings, so he might have been afraid of Miss Dubois.
Interesting, Mr. Van Horn. First aspersions were cast against Mr. St. John, and now further aspersions are cast on Miss Dubois. But I suppose, as we see, Lord Walnut did keep very few close friends, and you were one of them. So you would know better than I would. Also, she raised an eyebrow when you said "unfortunate fortune." She's just like, oh.
That was me failing at words.
It's fine. Okay, one more question from David. Don't worry. Yeah, don't worry. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Are you lamenting that you're not going to be spending time with Lady Susan anymore?
Does Oakes have any evidence that Archibald might have been involved? There's suspicion here, but like concrete, tangible evidence.
Okay. Lady Susan takes another sip from her hip flask. Actually, no, she only takes one sip per interview, so she doesn't take another one. And she'll just say, going back to Mr. St. John, it sounds as if there's, if not history, then certainly some animosity there, but I don't work on feelings and animosity. I work on proof. Mr. Van Horn, do you have proof that Mr. St. John could have caused your friend to go, so to speak?
I unfortunately do not have hard, solid proof of Mr. St. John's nefarious dealings, but I must alert you to the fact that I saw Mr. St. John doing something extremely suspicious by the pond. And as I'm sure you have noticed, my astute Lady Susan, Mr. St. John does not look like a man who sees the sunlight or the outdoors with the same friendship that we do.
Are you like moving to like show off your tan now at this point? I don't know. I'm kidding.
Loosens cravat. Just
starts flexing. No, okay, that doesn't happen. I think Lady Susan just kind of like, she's imperturbable, but she always kind of like this, like, not mirth, because murder isn't funny, unless it's a farce. I think she'll just say, "Indeed, who am I to countenance a rambler such as yourself? I believe that'll be all the time we have today, Mr. Van Horn. Why don't you go and fetch another one of your close circle to Mr. Walnut?"
I will do so, Lady Susan, but at the end of all of this, perhaps I can present you with some hard, solid proof of my innocence.
Wow, you got that out real quick, Maria. Thanks.
You're welcome. Who goes next?
You pick, basically.
Oh.
Who do you want to go next?
I feel like Oakes has been trying to put pressure on Archibald, so maybe Lady Susan interviews Archibald next.
Yeah. Okay, so like, yeah, Oaks, you'll come out and how do you say to Archibald that he's next?
I think he just like does the head jerk thing. She's like, Lady Susan would like to have a word.
I stand and adjust my coat. I'm sure she would. I button myself and stride confidently inside.
Mr. St. John, do you prefer tea or something harder? I'm sure it's a
Perhaps
stressful time.
Yes.
I wouldn't judge whatever you choose.
There is no need. Just tea will be sufficient. Thank you.
Cool. I think yeah, she'll pour you some tea. And I think I will have a preliminary question while everyone else is thinking of questions to ask Archibald. I've done some preliminary research, Mr. St. John, and it seems you were, would you say you were close to Mr. Walnut?
Formerly, we were at one time working together in a sort of business. I was his apprentice, but that relationship ended some time ago.
And yet you're here with an invitation from him, no less, to become part of his family portrait. An eccentric bunch, but you're one of them, so you must be relieved to see that whatever relationship you had could still be rekindled.
Yes, I thought that we were going to be estranged forever, but he just recently, in the last month, requested to meet with me and I had the suspicion, although I cannot confirm, that he intended to extend an offer to rejoin him in business ventures.
She'll produce the letter that you left. She's an investigator. She's been around. Let's say, quite. Well, she'll just say quite, and she'll just put the letter on the table. Does anyone have any questions for Archibald?
I'll be reading it in the meantime.
Where were you the night of the murder?
I think, like, as you're reading, Lady Susan will just say, it's certainly generous of him to suddenly re-extend a hand to you after so much estrangement. Might I inquire then, were up for your whereabouts at the time of his death?
Well, it's really rather embarrassing, but after the estrangement that we had suffered, I questioned whether or not to even arrive to meet with him in the first place, and my indecision led me to be late to the painting, and so I actually was not even on the premises at the time of the murder. I was considering whether or not to get in my stagecoach and come to this establishment.
So when exactly it is that you arrived, Mr. St. John?
I will give her a time that is some 10, 15 minutes after the murder happened, and I will say that I arrived probably 5 minutes or so before the hustle and bustle began. You know, I had just kind of walked through the door.
How tragic it must be then for you to arrive assuming a former friend's embrace, only to find that you will no longer be able to speak to him.
I do wish that I had gotten a chance to say my goodbyes.
Anyone have any other questions? What an alibi. What an explanation.
I think pretty much the same one. Did you know if he had any enemies?
Well,
sorry, I'm letting.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. Even though you've not been close in recent years, you must be aware of anyone who would have cause to commit the deed.
I can't point to a specific motive, although I will say in confidence between you and I,
Mm-hmm.
Lord Walnut's illegitimate son is on the premises. And now I do not know this young man's feelings toward his father, but I could understand if there was some amount of anger at having been abandoned by him. I don't mean to imply anything, but if you're looking for someone to talk to, then that might be an avenue of exploration.
Lady Susan's face is like steel, so her features doesn't change when you say so. I think she just says, "Would you confirm it for me that you're referring to Mr. Clifford Mills?"
Why, as a matter of fact, I am.
Oh, don't
Taken
worry.
aback that she knows.
Yeah. Well, no, she's just deducing it, and I'm no. The thing is, like, Lady Susan is not the most important character. She'll just know whatever she needs to know. That's the main thing. It's fine if she doesn't solve it. I'll say she's here to help you do what you're doing right now, which is inflame tensions, cast aspersions. I think just to add to that, I think she'll say, "Well, I'm glad to know that you have some pertinent suspicions to share. I'll definitely keep that in mind, Mr. St. John."
Certainly. Is there anything else that I can assist you with?
Marley, do you have one? You have a question? It could be like, what are your thoughts about this character? Like Oaks or whatever. Or what are your thoughts about the inheritance? Or
Yeah, I like that. I like the Oaks thing because Oaks was throwing him under the bus.
I think like Lady Susan like leans back. What's your relationship with Mr. Van Horn?
I thought you might ask me that question. Mr. Van Horn and I have been at odds for a number of years now, largely vying for the attention of Lord Walnut. It seems that after I was rejected by him, Van Horn moved in an effort to replace me, I suspect, out of envy. But to tell you the truth, I really don't think of Mr. Van Horn in my free time at all.
You say he moved in to replace you, and yet, though you worked under Lord Walnut for your business capacity, it seems Mr. Van Horn was never anything more than just a friend of sorts. Why would you think Mr. Van Horn would have such enmity for you?
Truly, I don't think it was about the money. I think it was about social status. I think that it was about compensating for a deep-seated sense of inferiority to me.
I see that you have many burdens at the moment, Mr. St. John. I think that'll be all for now. Do leave that letter. For the moment, it is evidence.
Certainly.
She'll take it. Send the next person in.
Certainly. Do reach out to me if you need anything. Thank you.
I'll keep that in mind, Mr. St. John.
Stroll away. And if we're continuing with the interview phase, I'll
all four is going to be interviewed. So.
Okay, I'll put I'm sorry, Clifford back up on the witness stand, so to speak.
Oh, how do you say to Clifford, he's next? Oh yeah, you two are best friends. I was like, I forgot you were best friends because you were throwing him under the bus. How do you say to him, he's next? That's fine. We don't have to. I think Clifford would just be invited. So yeah, Clifford, you're up next.
Yeah,
When you walk in, it's the same question. Mr. Mills, do you prefer tea or something stronger?
I'm like fidgeting, wondering if this is a test.
Poor boy.
Are you gonna? Does this tell you something that I don't want to send the wrong message here? So finally, I just say, just tea, please.
And she'll pour for you. And for some reason, I want to point out that like she's holding the teapot as if she's not really caring for the heat of it, and you can see like her hands are like quite calloused. She's done the work. Sorry, I'm just torturing Maria over there. Yeah. If you don't mind me asking, Mr. Mills, Lord Walnut's relationship with your three fellows are quite clear, but yours is quite obfuscated. Could you describe for me, in your words, your relationship with him?
With Lord Walnut, I've met him a few times. Archibald has introduced me to him at a few gatherings. He always seemed to take an interest in how I was doing. He would ask me questions when I was younger about my schooling, about my parents, about where I lived, but only in a polite manner. I honestly had no idea that he thought of me as anything other than a friend of Archibald's.
A friend of a friend. A friend of a former friend, even. And yet he saw fit to invite you to this portrait painting. Does that strike you as odd, Mr. Mills?
Of course it did. I had no idea that I had any place in his, his. I can't imagine that I would have taken up much of his time or thoughts. I don't know why he invited me, of all people. It certainly wasn't for my looks. And I gesture myself like this tall, skinny guy with a nose that takes up half his face and just kind of really gawky looking.
Cool. Does anyone have any questions for poor Clifford? And you can build on what's been said in previous interviews. If you want Lady Susan to straight up say, you're his illegitimate son. If you want to ask her to ask a question, well, obviously we'll talk about it, but that's on the table for sure.
How about she asks about the vial? Or at the very least, his strange behavior with the paints.
I think she would have learned that from a servant. She's been talking to the servants. There have been servants all over, but because this is not one of the other specific Good Society expansions, we don't need to know about them. I conducted a thorough interview before talking to yourselves to the servants of Walnut Manor, and they mentioned earlier this morning seeing yourself in the painting studio where the portrait was, and well, they were quite curious as to why you were inhaling the sense of the paints being used there. There were more than one servant has pointed it out to myself, so I felt I should bring it up.
I was trying to identify a smell. And I think I just take the vial out of my pocket because I don't have any reason to hide it from her. And I found this on the studio floor, and it's the cork. It has a strange scent. I couldn't place it, so I compared it to the paints and turpentine and pigments, and I don't honestly know what half of the chemicals were. I'm not a painter.
She'll take the vial, and I'll pay Archibald a token from Lady Susan's stash to for her to identify this as poison. I mean, I could have just said that because she's an investigator, but I'd rather ask if she can.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That works for me.
Cool. All right, take another token, and I'll deduct one from Lady Susan. Mark here. I think she takes like a quick sniff and looks to you and says, Mr. Mills, if I were to compare strange scents with another, I would not start by inhaling paint scents. They're quite dangerous. Though this one is quite dangerous in its own right. Where did you find this vial?
On the studio floor, near the other paints. There was something familiar about it, but I still can't place it.
Well, I know for a fact that if ingested by a living human being, well, it will only be a matter of time before they cease to live. Mr. Mills, thank you very much for this. But she says that as if like she's not really thanking you. She's still kind of like at you.
Right.
Okay. Two more questions. So Maria or David, do you have anything you want to ask? You want Lady Susan to ask?
Maybe ask something along the lines of I'm trying to fold Rosemary into this somehow. So making some reference to Rosemary as the the former mistress of Lord Walnut, who's been spurned. I mean, what do you think about that? Do you think that she? I mean, I understand that she's your mother, but do you think that that might be a variable to consider, like that kind of questioning?
Okay. Yeah. Because Clifford knows. Okay, cool. So Lady Susan puts down the vial. It's next to the letter and the cane. She has all the evidence out on this table that's getting wider and wider as apparently more people come in to present evidence. And she says, as it is we know of what Lord Walnut thought of you, Mr. Mills, perhaps you can shed further light on perhaps your relationships with the other people in this house. You already said you're friends with Mr. St. John, but what about Miss Dubois? I'm quite aware of her relationship to Lord Walnut, having been, well, it was greatly covered up at the time, and even then rumors abounded of his carnal relationship with her. But do you happen to know her, Mr. Mills?
I'm sitting there like, okay, what has Archibald already told her? She's my mother. I don't think she knows that. Archibald found out and told me, and I came here mostly to meet her and to tell her.
Have you done so, or has this business gotten in the way?
We've not had much chance to talk.
I still have some resolve tokens. I can do this. I don't know who I'll pay this resolve token to, but I do want Lady Susan to just connect the dots for Clifford. That like, I know she already knows the scandal of Rosemary and Miss Lord Walnut, and that makes sense. Poor Oak's still out of the loop. But I'll just spend this resolve token. I don't know. But I'll have, if it's okay with folks, I'll have Lady Susan connect the dots for Clifford.
Yeah.
Okay. So if what you said is true, and you are the child of Miss Rosemary Dubois, then, well, I suppose Lord Walnut's relationship to you can be better explained. After all, why would he invite someone like you who barely knows him or who he barely knows, to a sitting of his family portrait. Can you tell me why you think so, Mr. Mills? The unspoken second part of that question is, or should I just tell you myself?
I suppose you're implying that I'm Lord Walnut's son? I don't
An
know the
implication.
timing.
No.
I suppose it could be possible, but
A supposition, nothing more, Mr. Mills, but a keen one, I would say. Perhaps the will reading tomorrow will shed further light, but perhaps we'll keep that in mind then, shall we?
it would explain some things.
I think you get that tiniest hint of sympathy from Lady Susan. Otherwise nothing comes out. All right, we have one more question.
Yeah. I want to know who Clifford suspects.
I've had a voluminous number of opinions from my previous interviewees in this room, Mr. Mills. I don't suppose adding yourself to that volume wouldn't hurt. Can you tell me, of anyone in this manner, is there anyone who would be of suspect to you as to who did this crime?
Someone very strong. I caught a glimpse of, looked like someone was holding on to him just before, well, he wasn't struggling. So the person must have been quite strong to subdue him. He was not a small man.
Somebody strong. I'll keep that in mind, Mr. Mills. Until then, perhaps I'll leave you to your thoughts, and if you don't mind, send in our last interviewee.
Of course. Like practically sprint out of there. And Rosemary. I look right. That's give it to Rosemary. I believe it's your turn, Ms. Dubois.
Thank you. And she rises and with great poise and with her embroidery, embroidery hoop goes in to see Lady Susan.
Mr. Dubois, do you prefer tea or something stronger?
I'm not thirsty at this time. And she takes a seat and she starts in on her embroidery.
Quite poised for someone in the vicinity of a rather unfortunate death, Ms. Dubois. Tell me, how does one accomplish that?
I could give you the same compliment.
I think I got. Wait, Lady Susan, that's my eyes. So I'm smiling, but she's not. Does anyone have any questions for Rosemary?
Because she's the accomplice, I would be curious who she would point to if asked who the murderer is.
I think also Rosemary can see the evidence that Lady Susan has so far, which is a cane, the letter, and the vial of poison that Lady Susan has that Archibald said he'd dispose. Yeah, so I think she'll say,
Is it Archibald's goofy forged letter?
Oh yeah. Also, yeah, Archibald's goofy.
Which I
Forbes
don't think she
letters.
knew about. So like,
No, she really didn't. Mr. Bois, I'm not keen in rehashing some old sordid tales between yourself and Lord Walnut for now. So I will just ask, given that all all the others have ventured forth their opinion on who could have committed this murder, so I should solicit you for yours. Who do you think committed this deed?
I see the others are extremely indiscreet. I'm
Terribly
afraid I
so.
have no ready opinion. Not all of us ladies have the talent to be detectives. It seems whoever it is has provided you with a veritable cornucopia of evidence, so no doubt you will inform us.
Who has another question? Jesus, Rosemary. Who is the murderer? Who's the accomplice again? I don't know. This is all quite terrifying.
Hands are clean.
I think she would want to know if he has had any other secret lovers.
If Lord Walnut has had? Okay. I think even though Lady Susan said she wouldn't rehash sordid history, she's going to do that right now. I shouldn't have said that because I realized other people would have questions. Yes. It did strike me that after all this time, even after what's happened, Lord Walnut would extend a hand in friendship and invite you back here, Miss Dubois. You've certainly had, outside of everyone else here, probably known him in the ways the others couldn't have. Sorry, did he have any other lovers? And yet he did not marry, it seems, at all. Do you think there's any reason for that? Do you think perhaps he was one who would have more than just one?
Could not speculate on Lord Walnut's private life. He did not share the details of his affairs with me.
Great thing with Lady Susan, she's only as smart as everyone else asking the questions, and as smart as the interviewee. Also, yeah, this is quite suspicious, honestly. I think last question from Maria, I think.
So, I think it I guess like I'm just gonna use the default questions because I can't think of any.
Just thinking of how to steal Lady Susan away from Rosemary. Clearly.
Yeah. Yeah, basically. What are your thoughts about Clifford?
Though you might not have an opinion on who committed the crime, Miss Dubois, certainly you must have some opinions of your fellows here in the manor. After all, they're an interesting collection to be put in a family portrait. The young Mr. Mills, Mr. Clifford Mills, I've had a look at that portrait, and in my investigations, you're placed quite close to him. Do you know of the young man?
I met him recently at this very same event. It was the first time we had been introduced.
So you have not met him before in these in the 22 years of his life?
I would not think so.
Certainly,
I have not met him in the last few.
It's a very specific thing to say, 22 years.
Yeah, and the embroidery paused briefly as she picked up on the fact that like you're digging for something and I'm not quite sure what.
The thing is, like, Lady Susan's not going to spill anyone's secrets for them unless the questionnaires make her so.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I think then. Sorry, I forgot my train of thought. Lady Susan will kind of just say, well, Miss Dubois, I can't speculate for the dead as to why Lord Walnut would invite you back, but it does not strike me for, well, nefarious reasons.
Oh. That's reassuring, I suppose. I really had no idea why you had invited me back.
I think she'll just. I think just to end this interview, I think everyone's asked a question, right? Or David? Did you ask a question? Okay, yes. Well, I hope your embroidery goes well then, Miss Dubois. It's kind of like dismissing you.
As well as it ever does.
Yeah, and I think you'll leave her to like look at her evidence and just like think through all that. I will apologize. I botched the pacing of this session, so we'll move on to the next phase. Just realized we have some limited time. Cool. Next phase is epistolary. Basically, epistolary is like letter sending. In normal good society, this would be kind of like an interstitial phase where like weeks or days would pass by, but we don't have that. We have a night. So these epistolary are going to be like notes passed from your characters to each other, maybe slipped through door cracks or given to highly paid servants paid for their secrecy. And yeah, these are all happening in the dead of night. So the main thing is that like instant communication isn't happening. So you can be sending like, I'm your son or something, or I think you did it or something like that. Each gets 2 letters to send. So have a think about that. I mean, all that info amassed from all those interviews.
So I think Rosemary, as she is lying in bed, it finally clicks for her all of the different clues she's been getting. It's like, that 22 years old and the painting and the composition and the she sits straight up in bed and has a note sent to Clifford requesting that they meet, which I gather we can't do during epistolatory, so probably first thing in the morning.
Yeah, there's going to be another novel chapter after this, so you can do that
Okay,
meeting.
she will request a turnabout the garden because she knows that is one of the best places not to be eavesdropped upon.
Oh my god. Oh yeah, you don't have to like write out the letter. You can just say this is what the letter is.
Okay,
So
yeah,
you don't have to like.
That's what it is.
Yeah. So you don't have to say. You don't have to compose it. You can just say the gist.
I mean, obviously, I replied, yes, of course, I will see you at X time at the garden. I'm trying to think of how I just sign it. Your son, Clifford.
She accepts it and reads it and burns it because we don't leave evidence around.
Wow. Again, who the heck is the murderer here?
Oaks is gonna send a note to Rosemary. It's like, Aunt Rosie, quotation marks around Aunt. I saw you leaving the interview looking somewhat pleased with yourself. I get the feeling that I don't know everything here, but whatever it is, I'm on to you. And if I have to pay a resolve token for Oaks to have seen that, I will.
Is that okay with you, Rosemary?
Sure.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Do I need to throw a token, or
Um,
could I have?
I'm
just
willing
done-
to believe that she was looking slightly pleased with herself. I feel in general she is very composed, but they have been living together a long time, so I'm willing to say Oaks picked up on a little bit
Right.
of something.
Cool.
Archibald, do you have a letter? And it could be frivolous. It could. What would Archibald send in the middle of the night?
Right, right. It's tricky, and I have to send 2. You said.
You don't have to.
Well, that's the-
just at least one. But
Okay.
the maximum is 2. I should have said. Like
Got
you
it.
can you can send up to 2.
Does Archibald know that Rosemary knows that Clifford is her son?
If it helps, my next letter was going to be to Archibald saying, "Why didn't you tell me about Lord Walnut?"
Got it. But at the start of the evening, I'm thinking that Archibald does not know that Rosemary knows that Clifford is
Oh yeah, that's the
her
question.
son.
Because
Yeah. Well, because no, he wouldn't know because Rosemary only realizes this upon sitting up with a start in the middle of the night.
yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to commit a grievous error that will likely be my undoing.
Oh my god.
And
Oh my
and
God.
I will write a note informing Rosemary that I tried to put the lady detective onto the scent of Clifford. I'm sure she will be most pleased to hear that my convincing words went over so well with her. Please burn this letter, as I'm sure you will.
Oh my god. Rip Archibald.
This guy puts it in writing, the idiot. So we'll do that. You might have to come back to me to think if I have, see if I have another one thought
No
up.
worries. No worries. Okay, so the thing is, like, if you don't have a second letter, you don't need to force it. If you think those ones are fine, you don't have to send a second one. But if you do have a second one, now's the time to pipe up.
I'm okay with sitting on that one, I think.
Poor Archibald, gonna miss him.
Rosemary will answer Oak's midnight taunt with a midnight taunt of her own. And it will say something like, "My dearest nephew, it's the problem with pulling on strings is you don't know what might unravel and whom it might be connected to. Sleep well. Aunt Rosemary."
I'm so scared.
Oaks, because he's Oaks, is going to send Lady Susan a note, and it's basically hey, you up, but also where things may not be looking great for me, but I promise you that if you have only to ask, I will prove my innocence to you in whatever way necessary.
Wow. Okay. All right. Should have made Lady Susan not that strong. Okay. Made her more in the Enola Holmes territory of Lady Detective. Okay. Anyone have any more letters? And I think it's only Clifford or Archibald, but if that's okay with yourselves, that could be grand.
I do write that note to Archibald. Like, I thank you for telling me about Miss Dubois, but why didn't you also tell me about Lord Walnut? There's no way you wouldn't have known.
Got it. trying to think of an excuse for that. Maybe I can stammer over an explanation during a novel scene or something if that's a phase that's coming up.
Yeah, that is the next phase. Cool. So I'm looking at the time. We can do it. We got 40 minutes. That's fairly chunky. Okay. Mayor's making a face at me. Shush. All right. Next up, yeah, is another novel chapter. So yeah, this is again, each player sets a scene, and there will be a reading of the will. And then we'll get to Le Confrontation. But yeah, who has a scene they want to do in this novel chapter? I think let's you know what? Let's do mom and son to start us off. Before you ask, no, Oaks, Lady Susan's not available for this novel. She doesn't answer your note back. So yeah, let's Clifford and Rosemary. Let's see them.
Okay. Rosemary, in fact, waits for Clifford in the place that she had specified, which is a bit out of the way in the garden, so it cannot be easily seen. She is well aware of all the clandestine meeting spots of the house from when she was a frequent visitor.
Yeah.
Yeah, she actually has her embroidery in her bag for once, in her pelisse.
Clifford shows up at exactly the time Rosemary requested, I think, looking even twitchier than usual.
Clifford, good to see you. Thank you for answering my message. Please sit.
And I do. I wanted to speak to you before all this happened, but it never seemed an appropriate time.
No. Yes, I seem to be surrounded by people who think I do not need to know things. So I was given the remaining clues I required from Lady Susan, and have figured out that you are the child that I gave up some 22 years ago at the requirement of the Van Horn family and Lord Walnut. Lord Walnut was your father, in case you had not figured that out.
I didn't know that until Lady Susan suggested that it was the case, and then suddenly so many things became clear.
Yes, I really should have figured that out sooner. I am quite angry with Lord Walnut that he apparently knew who you were this entire time and did not see fit to tell me.
He didn't tell me either.
Yes.
I wonder if he invited us both to this painting at the same time. I have to wonder if he meant to reveal this information, or if he had if he was just laughing at our expense.
It's an interesting question. To not tell us, and yet to tell us by having this painting commissioned. It's very obscure, I will say.
It is, yeah.
Well, tell me of yourself.
Well, I I've lived a very ordinary life. I think nothing all that interesting, or either in a good or a bad way. My parents, or the people I've always thought of as my parents, I knew that they weren't, but they're merchants. I think it's a fairly respectable family. I believe Lord Walnut knew my father somehow. Well, that means something else now, doesn't it?
Yes.
Archibald told me that you were my mother, and he said that he had found out, but he didn't say how. Obviously, he didn't tell you.
No, he did not see fit to share that with me. Interesting. So what do you think of this house that you should have been raised in?
It's such a strange collection of people.
Hmm.
It seems everyone is keeping secrets from one another, sometimes for good reasons, other times seems only for the sake of keeping secrets.
Sure, bring it, Oaks.
I just want to be eavesdropping. Like, I feel like this is the only way Oaks is
Absolutely.
going to find out.
Yes.
Yeah, that
All
is,
this.
Anything.
Nobody's going to
perfect.
pour Oaks. Oaks. Yeah.
All
I'm
right.
sort of accepting your token as a pity token.
Oh, wait, wrong
It's
person.
like Oaks should get to play a little more.
Here you go. Here you go.
Okay.
Can I give you a token to cough or sneeze or something and give yourself away?
Sure.
Yes.
You hear this, like, I was probably hiding behind the one plant I am allergic to. The one plant I avoid on my walks. And there's just like very loud sneeze. And like, I don't know, birds are startled or something.
Oaks, come out and meet your cousin.
Cousin. And he like strides out. So this is the entire reason my family has been harboring you, my dear Rosemary.
This is a person, and I will think to use his name. But yes, your family has been complicit in my dismissal from Lord Walnut's affections and consequences that those caused.
Fascinating, my dear Rosemary. You do realize this puts you in rather unflattering light in the context of why we are all here.
For a family portrait?
Well,
That's why I came.
yes, that is indeed.
And my inclusion now makes a great deal more sense.
But if you perhaps are angry at a certain friend that we all have. I say friend, knowing that the two of you are much closer. Perhaps I should have pointed Lady Susan at you.
Oh, did pointing Lady Susan in particular directions a high priority for you? What necessitated that?
The need to understand the truth.
What necessitated that is the fact that you are the only one of us large enough to throw a large man through a window.
Just because a man likes to walk in the woods and chop trees occasionally should not mean that a man is likely to chop down his friend in the prime of his life. Cousin.
No, of course not. It only means we would be capable of it.
How close were you really? I understand this conversation so underhandedly perceived was revelation to you.
Wait, sorry, what was that?
He didn't tell you. How dear of a friend could you possibly have been?
He must have known that our families were too closely intertwined to burden me with this scandal.
Your parents accepted it willingly. Oh, they knew you couldn't.
It is.
It's fine, Oaks. Nothing has changed. We shall go back to the way we were, aunt and nephew.
I could just cut off what we give you. Oh, are you excited now? Are you going to be the recipient of Lord Walnut's estate?
I can't imagine I would be. Though now that I'm aware that he knew about Clifford, I do wonder if Clifford will be inheriting.
I had assumed if it were any of us, it would be, well, either Archibald or Mr. Van Horn here, but
I think on that note, you do hear like Bell summoning you. Don't worry, Archibald will give you a scene right before the will reading. But I just want to get these characters. They're gonna start killing each other in this garden. But yeah, a servant actually comes, not a bell tolling, because that's weird. Summoning you for a mass. But the servant just comes to tell you, like, Mr. Walnut's lawyer has come for the reading of the will. Archibald, hopefully you haven't sweated to death, or died of a sweat, I guess, as Shakespeare would say.
I'm sweating. Yep.
Do you want to have a scene? Who do you want to have a scene with?
I mean, like, if I need to have a scene at all, I think it might as well be a fairly quick one. Not just because of time reasons, but also just fictional positioning. I mean, like, I don't even know who would want to talk to him at this point.
Does anyone want to talk to Archibald? Actually, let's reverse that question as well. Does Rosemary have any threatening things to say? Does Clifford have any what the fuck man things to say? Does Oaks have like things to say? I don't know.
Yeah, Rosemary doesn't have anything to say. If she's going to throw him under the bus, she's going to do it to Lady Susan.
You okay with that, David?
That is fine by me.
I'm not sure she will, but she's thinking about it.
Okay.
If Bethany, if you want Clifford to have a confrontation and need a little up the ante, I can have Rosemary show you the letter.
The letter Archibald show.
Yeah, doesn't Lady Susan have the letter?
No,
the letter that Archibald sent to Rosemary being, I threw Clifford under the bus.
No, I don't think I need that.
Okay.
So I
So
think
sorry, Archibald. I'm so sorry.
I'm
like
totally fine with
see
this.
Archibald
Okay.
as I'm going in, and he's like kind of a small, skinny guy, right? I think yeah. So I like the moment nobody's looking, I just kind of grab him, by the front of his shirt and push him against the wall. And I said, "Why didn't you tell me?"
What are you talking about? Tell you what?
That you told me who my mother was. You didn't tell me who my father was. Did you think it wasn't important?
Clifford, you have to understand the sheer amount of baggage that comes from being a member of the Walnut family. I mean, just look at all the things that have happened over things like his money, his heritage. I wanted to protect you from all of that. This wasn't supposed to be revealed to you so early.
Yes, baggage like me suddenly becoming a major suspect.
You're a suspect. No one suspects you of all people, Clifford. You are the you compared to the rest of us, your hands are clean. You're scot-free.
Not if my name is in that will. Suddenly I have a motive.
Well, we all have motives. I mean, that doesn't make you above anybody
It would have
else.
helped to know that.
Clifford, you have my deepest apologies. I really was truly stuck between the lesser of two evils. I wish that it didn't end this way, but I hope that you are quite assured that you are truly not a major suspect here. As if anyone's going to prison here, it's Oaks.
Yeah. He does seem like the most obvious. Something about that doesn't quite sit right with me, though. He doesn't seem. I don't know.
Clifford, I say, placing a hand paternally on your shoulder. I trust the lady detective, and I want you to as well. This isn't something that you need to concern yourself with, lose sleep over. You have been through enough as it is, and I just want you to be all right.
Oh, I'm fine. It was my father who died, but I didn't even know him. You on the other hand, you look shaken. I'm sorry. I would never have hurt you.
Oh, no,
I'm sorry.
no offense taken. We are all shaken over these recent events. I just hope for a swift resolution.
I think the lawyer pokes their head out. I should mention the lawyer looks like he's a million years old, and he just says, "Gentlemen, we're ready to read the will of Lord Ernest Walnut, if you would not mind."
I'll kind of clap a hand gently on Clifford's back and say, "Come, let us be done with this."
Just take a deep breath. Yeah. Yes, and trust that Lady Susan. She seems quite astute.
I am quite sure she will come to the correct conclusion.
So I think so the will is kind of semi-important in that, like, it has been mentioned, it's gonna happen. We can discuss. I have ideas of what the content is, but I can put it out there. Is Clifford's name on this will? People are making faces. If no one says anything, I will say yes.
Yeah, I feel like Clifford should be the heir.
Okay.
He didn't
right.
have any legitimate children, right? Because he never married anybody. So yeah, I could see that being.
Okay. Okay. So the lawyer will read out the will. It's slow going because the lawyer is very exact, and he keeps referencing people who aren't here. I will say that, like, the last will and testament of Lord Ernest Walnut, last amended August, the 13th of August, 1810, in accordance to I leave my best china set to my hitherto unknown older sister, Hester. Stuff like that. It takes a lot. It's so long. I think what's pertinent to you, to my dear friend Oakes Van Horn, whose company was a comfort in all locations. I leave my best hiking boots. May their toughened leather suit you in your rambles, my dear sweet friend. That's the lawyer, not Walnut. To Archibald St. John, one who I cannot claim as an old friend, for that would imply that we have remained friends, but sadly we have not. Hopefully by the time you hear this, you will become the able businessman that I know you always had the potential to be. So I leave to you a cargo hold of Indian textiles. May you use it to venture forth and build the life I know you can. Sorry, this lawyer starting to sound more like the Undertaker. I'm sorry. To Rosemary, dear Rosemary. What I've done to you is quite incalculable in many respects. And if you're hearing this, hopefully I have made such amends, but if not, then perhaps what follows next would start as a suitable recompense. And I, Lord Ernest Walnut, hereby name my son, the son of myself and Rosemary Dubois. He wouldn't have a name. Oh yeah, no, he would. He would be alive when Clifford was in young Clifford Mills, as heir to all my worldly possessions, save the ones I already gave away on this will. But everything else will be left upon to him. And I think the lawyer rolls up the will and says, of course, execution of this will is pending Lady Susan's judgment on this case. So don't start counting your hiking boots yet. She will be here soon, as she has almost finished her deliberations. And he very slowly, ponderously puts away his legal bits and will move away. He's not haggard, he's ancient. Well, he's both, I guess. Okay. Marlisa, step away for like 2 minutes. Let's do you want to take a quick 1 minute break because I need to pee, and then we'll wrap this all up. Just 1 minute. I just need to step away.
and disappeared while I was gone.
That he was like, "Oh, Rosemary, I'm so sorry, but I'm still not leaving you anything. I'm leaving it all to our illegitimate son."
Yeah, it's kind of a dick move.
Kind of, yeah.
Well, he's not the finest specimen of human, or we would not be in this mess.
He's a great friend, and you all are terrible.
What about if you were a great friend and he would have given you something better than hiking boots?
Really, he doesn't seem like much of a friend.
We have our memories together.
I was expecting, like, you know, like his prized pair of Irish wolfhounds or something like that to go ramble with.
Well,
Yeah.
there's no guarantee that those wolfhounds will still be around when he died. We just will. Okay, so I think. Oh, hold on. I need to start charging this laptop. All right, forgot to do that. It's about to die. You still hear me? Cool. That's all recorded. Jesus. Don't worry, I'll edit stuff out when we put this up. Okay, so I think the lawyer leaves as before, and Lady Susan will just like walk in, and she looks at the four of you and she says, "I've almost reached a conclusion as to what happened here in Walnut Manor. But before I finalize my professional opinion, each of you has one last chance to state what you think." So this is now the confrontation phase, which is exactly that. Each character is going to have, this is their last chance to state what they think, and then we'll decide on the ending. Because that's the thing, you know, there's no rolling of dice or anything. We're going to collectively decide what the ending is going to be to this. But first, Lady Susan's like, I think she was just kind of like, I should have mentioned she was there for the will reading. She was just in the corner, drinking from her hip flask. And she stood up as soon as the lawyer left. "Mr. Archibald St. John, in your humble opinion," she looks at your disheveled form. "In your humble opinion, what happened to Lord Ernest Walnut?"
Well, good lady detective, I cannot point conclusively to a single perpetrator in this foul crime. However, I will say that to the best of my deductive reasoning abilities, that the behavior of one Oakes Van Horn has been thoroughly suspicious throughout the duration of this investigation. I have no conclusive evidence other than the sheer brawny size of this man to point to the crime itself, but I do wish that you would take any ill words from Mr. Van Horn with a grain of salt, given the high degree of well, what we talked about earlier.
She nods.
I yield the remainder of my time.
"Astutely put," she says with no confidence. "Ms. Rosemary Dubois, in your humble opinion, what happened to Lord Walnut?"
Okay, so what Rosemary wants to do, which may not be supported by the mechanics, so tell me if I have to just commit at this point or not, is she would like to hear who Lady Susan thinks it is. And then if it's her kid or her, she's going to turn over the letter. And otherwise, she's just going to like let things play out.
Yeah, the thing is that I don't know what Lady Susan thinks because we're going to decide it after everyone has presented their case. That's the thing.
Okay.
Like I said, Lady Susan isn't like she's a cipher. She's here to poke at everyone. She's not here to solve the crime because maybe that's not the that's not the best ending for the story. If you if you want, because the way the game's laid out, everyone will state their claims out first. But if you want, if you want, like, for what was it again? For Lady Susan to accuse Rosemary or Clifford.
No, if she does, she wants to present the evidence. Otherwise, she's willing to let either Oakes or Archibald take the fall for this.
Okay. We can still do the letter thing, but she does want to know your opinion first.
Okay.
So right now she's just like soliciting opinions. What do you think? Go on.
I am afraid I have no ready opinion. I wait anxiously for you to tell us who the murderer is.
Acknowledged. Mr. Oakes Van Horn. In your humble opinion, what happened to Lord Ernest Walnut?
My dear Lady Susan, I must first state that while Mr. Archibald St. John has pointed the finger at me due to my brawny strength, that is not enough of a reason for me to have harmed someone so good to me over these years. I may be strong, but that does not mean I am murderous. However, I will say that the fact that Clifford Mills was named the heir suggests that there may be more family drama to this than any of us, or at least than I knew. So I think perhaps you should look at the most incongruous suspect, and he will stare at Clifford.
Mr. Clifford Mills, in your humble opinion, what happened to Lord Ernest Walnut?
I've been sitting there all this time, noticing Archibald's just like haggard, sweaty look, remembering what Rosemary said. And I say, and feel free to X-card this, I believe he drank the poison himself.
I think when you say that, Lady Susan is going to go to her bag and pull out the piece of evidence she's found. The cane, which I think Oakes probably wants to have, or I don't know, maybe she wants Lady Susan to keep it. The letter, the one that Archibald left, business ventures, and the vial of poison, which now Archibald sees is with Lady Susan. Okay, so before she delivers her conclusion, we need to determine it. So there's a process to this. Firstly, we remove possibilities players are comfortable with. If any player wishes to exclude certain major characters from being implicated in the crime, they should indicate this now. Based on the story and like where players want the story to go. Like, for example, there are some games where because characters have made reconciliations, they don't want to be implicated in the crime. This is such a messy, horrible bunch of people, though, that okay, I'm not going to assume for yourselves, but is there any possibilities that people don't want, that people are not comfortable with?
I mean, I feel like that it was a natural death. We've kind of hasn't really popped into the story. I don't know. Like, it seems like there has to be some accusation or confession.
Drinking the poison himself, though. We'll see. Okay, so next we would like vote on an ending, and then we'll discuss what the ending is. So there are 4 types of 4 possible endings to a Lady Susan game: natural death, someone confesses, Lady Susan accuses the murderer, or Lady Susan accuses someone else. So it says here in the PDF, place a resolve token. But there's no space for resolve tokens. Hold on, that can't be right. Oh, that's annoying. Hold on. Some very quick surgery. Okay. All right. I'm just putting resolve token spots underneath each. Okay. So each person is going to silently and simultaneously, so we won't know who voted for what, voted on what ending they want, they think is best for this. So yeah, we'll look through those and then just check a box, and then we'll talk about what this ending looks like, and then we'll play it. It's in the it's in the character sheet. It starts at row 26. Ooh.
So we just like check which one we think is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Apologies, we'll probably go over a bit. Hopefully maybe just 5 to 6 to 10 minutes. Okay. So it seems by popular vote, it'd be Lady Susan accuses the murderer. Let's talk about that. Is that okay with folks? Specifically the murderer.
That's perfectly fine with me.
Okay. Okay. All right. So once the ending's decided, discuss its meaning together. Okay. So let's say like Lady Susan will find out the letter is a forgery. Because you did say it's poorly yeah. And yeah, bottle of poison. Yeah, I think Lady Susan can figure this out from the evidence. I think for sure. Just trying to fit it all together. So I guess before we like play this scene out, what do you think Archibald's going to do if he's accused, David?
I think he would flatly deny it, and would be. He would comply with being arrested, but he would be complaining and proclaiming his innocence the whole way. Well, once he was actually being interrogated by police, though, he would probably kind of try to come up with, well, I had reasons, that kind of a thing.
Okay.
To make it like a justifiable murder.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Yeah. All that.
All right. I will react accordingly. So I think we come back to this scene, if that's okay with folks. That's I think that's a tenor of the ending we're gonna get. Sorry, Archibald. Rip. I feel bad for him, even though he killed someone. Sorry, every time I played Lady Susan, I played the murderer, so I have a soft spot for them. Because I've gotten away with it. Sorry. Lady Susan will just say, a noble conclusion, Mr. Mills, but I do believe that if Lord Walnut had indeed wanted to reconcile with everyone in this room, as his will would have implied, he would have done so in person. He would have wanted a family portrait done up with all the people he cared for in one place, enshrined. There is one person here who thought otherwise. She says this even though there's like more than one person here who thought otherwise. There is one person here who thought to get ahead, to skip forward, ensure their fortunes, I should say his fortunes, are set in stone. I think she will, if it's okay with you, Archibald, she went to your quarters and took some of your writings, and she'll place it in front of the letter that you left in in Lord Walnut's study. You may not know this, but I'm quite practiced in the art of reading letters. And don't mistake me, reading letters is indeed an art. And she takes out a third letter. Here is a letter from Lord Walnut to his hitherto unknown sister, Hester. Here is a letter from Lord Walnut, supposedly, to Archibald St. John. And here is a letter written by Archibald St. John. This letter, Mr. St. John claims he did not know of. I presented to him yesterday and he was quite surprised. And yet, it's a poor facsimile of Lord Walnut's writings. Archibald St. John, do you have something to say for yourself?
You mean to tell me this is a forgery? Well, even if it is, then that does not necessarily point to any specific person.
I mean to say that this is your forgery, Mr. St. John.
My own forgery? I do not see how you could possibly come to such a conclusion as that.
Look at the G's, Mr. St. John. Points at the forgery letter, points at your letter. The G's, and the I's, and the N's, and the L's, and the T's, and the U's, and the W's.
Yes, I see your point, Miss Lady Detective. I think that you must be surely mistaken. However, any good forger would know better than to write two separate letters in their own hand. This is surely a very good forgery designed to look like I wrote a poor one.
Or perhaps you overestimated your skills in forgery, Mr. St. John. The constabulary is on their way. They'll have a further chat with you later tonight.
I at this point I would probably erupt into the panic. This is an outrage. This is a miscarriage of justice. You know, that whole, you know, ranting and raving kind of thing. At some point I would probably tell the haggard lawyer that I wish to enlist his services. That would be the extent of my further conversation with the lady detective.
Yeah. She probably had more compelling evidence than what I just had to come up there, like with something with a poison, but it's fine.
I want Oaks to be like, my dear Lady Susan, would you like me to restrain this raving man? Or perhaps you would prefer the honor.
I think her glare tells you her answer. I think does anyone have, I want to see what the other people's reactions to this. How does Clifford or Rosemary react to Archibald being accused? We got Oak's response, that's all I could get. Sorry.
I think Clifford was kind of it was sinking in during the will reading, like he was kind of coming to these conclusions, and on seeing it confirmed and her obviously not believing his panicked it was he did it himself, it wasn't wasn't any of us. I think he just like quietly like backs to the back of the room and waits for a chance to leave.
Rosemary will in fact like put a light hand on your arm and sort of she won't let you leave because that looks like fleeing and that looks guilty, but she is definitely doing the we are just going to stand here and be ignored.
Rosemary is the best murder planner of any of us by far.
God. Okay, so last thing we do as Archibald St. John is carted off. No, Lady Susan did not need Oakes's Van Horn's help. Is we move to epilogues. Why are there two? Oh, okay, sorry. got confused or some editing weirdness there. So yeah, in this phase, each player, usually in Good Society, you write a letter a few months after what's happened, kind of to someone detailing what your life has been since then. But if you don't want to write a letter, you can just like describe what's happened to your characters. That includes you, Archibald. We're not going to presume you.
Mine's a letter from prison.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, well, yeah, it could be from prison. It could be from. It's up to yourselves. Could be from prison. That probably makes sense. But yeah, have a moment to think about where we see these characters months after Lord Walnut's passing.
I mean, for my part, I think that Archibald just ends up going to prison, and that's his epilogue. He gets caught. He probably tries to throw Rosemary under the bus during the trial and proclaim that it was her idea and that she actually was the murderer and so on and so forth. But I only wrote the letter. It was her that actually did the deed, that kind of a thing. But obviously, I don't think that holds very much water.
No, because that's not what happened. You should have just said what happened.
Right.
You just said
But to say what happened means he has to admit that he wasn't smart enough to come up with it on his own.
Oh, poor Archibald. I feel so sorry for him.
He deserves it. He's an idiot.
For Coen Brothers nonsense. Yeah, what about everyone else?
I know Oaks is. I think it's like Oaks is standing at Lord Walnut's gravestone and has a letter in his hand, and it says, "My dear Ernest, I don't know why I wrote this because you'll never see it, but I felt like I had to tell you somehow. While your departure was one of the saddest moments of my life, I will truly miss your companionship. It did open many doors and showed me many things about this world. I have since then, Aunt Rosemary no longer needs my sustenance because, clearly she has a son with lots of money, so I have cut her off from the Van Horn family. I am much better off without her, and, your son, I suppose. Funny you never told me about him. And, I now find myself traipsing the world after the love of my life, who I keep offering her help. I know she does not need it, but perhaps one day she will find herself in need of another strong pair of arms. One day. Until then, my dear Ernest, I will visit you often and think of you as I wear your boots. Sincerely, Oaks Van Horn.
Actually, the saddest tale that's ever been told. Tiny violin.
I think Clifford actually writes a letter to Oaks. And it's something like, I've taken over the Walnut Manor. My mother is doing fine, in case you were concerned. And then I have been going through my father's many entanglements, and this family is incredibly corrupt. How did you deal with it? Like, how did you deal with being involved with this family? I need your advice.
Is that good?
Yeah, it probably continues on like that for a little bit, but that is the gist of it. Like, help. How do I deal with this, pit of corruption that I've found myself in? Clearly,
Okay.
you know, because like you've been involved with this family, and Oaks probably has no idea.
So Rosemary, I think, is writing to their solicitor. Um, she has very nicely ensconced herself in Lord Walnut's old home, as she should have been all this time. And now that she actually doesn't have the pressure of being the hangers-on relative in need, not very kindly treated, she actually, she lightens up a little, but not very much, because she too discovers this pit of corruption that apparently Lord Walnut left behind. And so the letter she is writing is to the solicitor to discuss the arrangement of various accounts and investments that Lord Walnut had made. And basically, she is trying to follow her way through and understand everything that he'd done so that she can carry the estate forward. So, yeah, if she gets her way, Clifford won't have to worry about anything because she'll be handling it all.
So we're each like secretly trying to take care of all this without letting the other know.
I don't
Seems in
think she's
keeping
actually
with-
being I don't think she's actually being secretive about it.
Okay.
I think she would have rolled her eyes if she had heard you'd written to Oaks, but
They all left poor Archibald behind. Sorry, I'm still just so. I feel so bad. Again, it's the. Never mind.
Rosemary's delighted how everything turned out.
Yeah, I'm scared of how it went so well for Rosemary. It's quite scary. Anyway, that's Lady Susan PI. Thank y'all very much for playing. Woo! Gosh, that was a lot. We'll do it like a quick debrief after I stop the recording. We'll talk about some highlights and whatnot. I know we've went a bit over, so it will be quick. So I'll just stop. But again, thank y'all very much. Anyone who's watching this, check out the gauntlet. I already said all that stuff. Cool. Bye YouTube or podcasting, wherever you're listening to. Bye-bye.